Long ago, there was a famous blacksmith who made his fortune forging weapons and armor. War broke out. He supplied the Cairo kingdom with gear, and once the fighting ended, he got rewarded with the title of Baron. Cut to present day. We are with this fat ass who's been dragged into retelling this whole backstory to someone, and bro's reaction is like, what the fuck is he talking about? We then flash back a few hours to figure out what's going on. Turns out our guy just woke up in this body, and immediately starts grilling the servant with weird questions, basically interrogating him about what world this is, what kingdom they're in, whether Murim exists here. The servant is sweating bullets, assuming this rich kid is either on drugs or having some kind of breakdown. We learn our guy's new identity. He's Roman Dmitri, eldest son of House Dmitri, 25 years old, and he is basically known around the estate as Dim-witted Dmitri, or simply as the bitless bit boy. There's also a fiancé situation brewing. Lady Lawrence is supposed to visit today. Roman straight up brushes it off, says he's got more important things to do, and instead demands to be taken to the oldest man on the estate so he can get the full history of this place. After getting the rundown on the Dmitri bloodline from that old servant, our guy starts piecing it together in his head, wondering if he's been sent here on some heavenly mission, or if this is punishment for refusing ascension back in his old life. Because yeah, turns out our boy was actually a legendary Murim warrior named Jung-Heek Baek, who lived his whole life as a fierce fighter and died at peace, only to wake up in the body of this useless noble. And just as he's spiraling over all this, something crashes through nearby. That crash turns out to be some Blood Fang's goons beating the daylights out of a random guy in the market, screaming for him to just die already, while the crowd just watches and murmurs. The poor kid's getting smacked around for owing money, and even the servant guy with Roman immediately clocks the Fang tattoo on the big bald attacker and goes pale. The servant fills our guy in. The Blood Fangs are a loan shark crime gang terrorizing not just Dimitri's land but the whole region, and his advice is basically, let's not get involved, walk away. But our guy isn't having it. He just walks straight up to the gang with one word: enough. The Blood Fangs obviously have no idea who this random noble-looking dude is, and the big bald leader straight up laughs in his face. Roman doesn't get mad, he just calmly asks what crime was committed and what the punishment should be. The thug, smug as ever, says yeah, the kid deserves to get smacked for not paying his debt, and then drops the real charge. They've insulted a member of House Dmitri. According to the laws of this land, that's a crime punishable by death. The bald leader's smirk completely vanishes once he realizes this kid is actually Lord Dimitri's son, but he tries to play it off, mocking Roman as some clueless rich boy who doesn't know how the real world works, and that he's about to teach him a lesson, pulling out a weapon as his crew gets ready to jump our guy. Roman, completely unbothered, calmly introduces himself as the eldest son of Baron Romero Dmitri, and tells them flat out that he'll be the one punishing them. One of the gang members charges at him with a knife, yelling for the others to get him too. But before anyone can blink, our guy moves. There's a flash, a slash, and the dude who attacked him drops, throat slit. By this point bodies are hitting the ground left and right, and the whole market has gone dead silent watching this. The servant is screaming, "Lord Roman!" in pure horror, watching his master covered head to toe in blood, completely calm, while the last guy tries to scramble away. Our guy doesn't let him. One more swing and it's done. Then we get a flashback. Turns out the real Roman Dmitri killed himself, leaving behind a suicide note and poison, because he was terrified of being sent off to fight in Cairo's mandatory 2-year military service that every noble house has to provide. After all the bloodshed, our guy gets up and addresses the stunned crowd, basically telling them if anyone disagrees with how he just dealt with the Blood Fangs, they're welcome to step up too. Then we cut to a flashback explaining exactly who he really is. This is Jung-Heek Baek, once known as the demon overlord who conquered all of Murim. The story shows just how brutal his past was. Hundreds of thousands of warriors threw themselves at him trying to stop his rise. Back in the present, he's looking down at the bodies thinking this is honestly beneath him. He tells the servant Hans to call the security brigade to clean up the mess, and Hans, visibly shaken, agrees. Then one of the beaten up victims, a guy named Kevin, limps after him to say thanks. Our guy immediately shuts that down, saying he wasn't trying to help him, he just punished the Blood Fangs for breaking the law. And that doesn't mean Kevin's off the hook either, demanding he explain himself or he'll lose his tongue. Kevin, scared but cooperative, explains the whole situation. His family borrowed money from the Blood Fangs to buy farmland, but the gang deliberately destroyed their crops so they couldn't pay it back, all because the Blood Fangs wanted to take Kevin's little sister. Kevin's furious and desperate, begging our guy to help his sister. He asks for Kevin's name, gets it, and tells him he'll personally find out if Kevin's telling the truth, and that this whole situation will be dealt with properly. Kevin's overjoyed and thanks him again. 1 month later, we're introduced to Lady Flora, riding in a carriage on her way to the Dmitri territory. Turns out her family arranged a marriage between her and Roman Dmitri to bail their own struggling territory out of trouble. Flora's clearly not thrilled about it, but resigned, murmuring to herself that she's about to meet this Roman Dmitri for the first time. She walks in fully prepared to demand the engagement be called off, psyching herself up, only for our guy, now inhabiting Roman's body, to immediately agree with her. She came in ready for a fight and instead gets full agreement with zero pushback, leaving her standing there going, "Wait, is this guy serious right now?" Then we cut to him going to face his actual father, Baron Dmitri, who is furious. Turns out the father set up this marriage specifically to strengthen the family's political standing by allying with House Lawrence. The father also brings up the Blood Fangs incident, mocking the idea that Roman actually punished them himself, and warns that if the Blood Fangs come for revenge, there's nothing even he can do. Our guy doesn't argue, doesn't grovel, then takes full responsibility, saying he caused this mess so it's only right he deals with it himself. Then Flora shows up, and immediately tells him he's being ridiculous, comments on his bloody bandage, and starts lecturing him about the Blood Fangs gang possibly coming after him for revenge, even if he's an aristocrat. She tells him to just go ask his father for help instead of trying to handle it himself. Cut to Roman's parents. His dad admits he got violent with Roman again, and we get backstory. When they were poor commoners, Roman used to take beatings from his dad. Now that they're aristocrats, Dad swore he'd never let that happen again, but clearly still struggles with his temper. His mom comforts him, saying no one's perfect at parenting, and they both agree they're the only ones who can help their kids succeed. They bring up the Blood Fang incident, so they decide to call in Captain Jonathan to help Roman out. Roman's walking through town with some companions when his guards catch up, panicking that it's dangerous for him to be out given the Blood Fangs might be out for revenge after that last incident. Roman asks Hans how the Blood Fangs got so powerful in the first place. Hans says he's not sure, but explains that the Blood Fangs once wiped out a rival gang in brutal fashion. They stop at a restaurant called Atelier to eat. While Hans is busy stuffing his face and gushing over the food, our guy quietly slips away, telling him to stay and eat, he'll be right back. Before ditching him, Roman tests Hans's loyalty, asking if Hans would say he's loyal to him. Hans, a little offended at the question, confirms of course he is. Roman tells him then to do what's best for him, no unnecessary sacrifices, and that Hans has already done enough just by coming out with him today. While he's walking through a quiet alley, a group of hooded Blood Fangs corner him. One of them lunges at him with a knife. Roman doesn't even flinch. He grabs the blade mid-swing, then turns the knife back on him and stabs him. Blood sprays everywhere as the remaining Blood Fangs are left completely stunned, realizing this guy is nothing like what they'd heard about him. Roman just looks back at them, smirking through the blood on his face, and asks what they're waiting for. Back at the manor, Hans reports to Captain Jonathan that Roman left the house without a single guard and is probably off to fight the Blood Fangs. Jonathan and another knight just burst out laughing, saying there's no way. Jonathan, despite calling it a hassle, remembers Lord Dimitri's special order and decides there's no time to waste. He suits up the knights and has Hans lead them to Roman's location. Meanwhile, our guy is having way less trouble than anyone thinks. After taking out the first attackers, the rest of the Blood Fangs charge and screaming that he's gonna die right here. Roman just calmly steps forward, knife still in hand, and absolutely wrecks them, slashing, kicking, casually asking, "Is that all?" He grabs one surviving Blood Fang by the collar. The guy panics, asking if Roman thinks he'll be safe after killing them, and Roman coolly points out he's already killed 2 of them, so that ship's sailed. Roman stabs him in the shoulder and tells him to answer everything he asks. Roman walks into a bar called Tears of Dawn, still bloodied, and casually tells the bartender his order. "Tears of Dawn, year 27. The bartender apologizes, says they don't carry anything by that name. Roman just shrugs it off and tells him to give him the strongest alcohol they've got. Meanwhile, other patrons are whispering, recognizing him. "Is that Roman Dmitri?" The bartender, realizing exactly who's standing in front of him, panics and shouts for everyone to get him. What follows is chaos. The thugs panic and call for backup. By the time it's over, he's taken down 3 Blood Fangs in a flash, leaving the rest of the gang completely stunned, muttering that this isn't the Roman they were told about, and he casually shrugs off a "gang up on him" order from the remaining thugs. He grabs the last conscious guy, the bald bartender, who's begging. "No, no!" Roman just smiles and says they're going to have a quick chat. Captain Jonathan and the knights finally arrive at the wrecked bar to find bodies everywhere. One of the survivors on the upper floor is talking, and it turns out he's spilling that Roman went off to the land of Lawrence. Jonathan's confused. Why Lawrence? And the answer comes, that's where the Blood Fang's actual base is located. Back to the interrogation. Roman's already pulled 2 fingers off this guy and the bartender's still refusing to talk, daring Roman to just kill him since the Blood Fangs will avenge him anyway. Roman just smiles, says he loves guys like this, the type who don't fear death and stay quiet through torture, because they're the ones with the most valuable info. Roman casually pulls out a photo of the man's wife and kid and asks, "What if I killed him instead?" The bartender immediately tries to deny it's his family, but Roman calls him out, saying the kid looks just like him. Then Roman drops some lore on him. He's figured out the truth about the Blood Fangs. Everyone who's come after him so far had massive debts to the organization and weren't actually evil by nature. They just got pushed into becoming evil demons, because the Blood Fangs collect debts by enslaving people's families. The guy mutters that knowing all this changes nothing, the Blood Fangs will still get revenge. So Roman tells him to think long and hard, then offers one more chance. Talk now, or watch your son die for the Blood Fangs' sake. The choice is his. Cut to the Blood Fangs' main hideout. Members are panicking, saying their entire other branch got wiped out by Roman alone, and that Dmitri Knights are mobilizing. The leader, an older guy with white hair and a scarred face, refuses to believe Roman's that strong, assuming this is just House Dmitri flexing its authority. The leader learns Roman left Dmitri territory alone, probably chasing a lead on the dew of dawn. Furious that they're being underestimated, he orders everyone to gather their forces. They're going to kill Roman before the Dmitri Knights even arrive. New scene cuts to a noble council meeting discussing House Barco, which has taken out a huge loan from Gold Bank, a clear sign they're prepping for war. The central government has apparently sided with Barco. A blonde noble sighs heavily, and another lord, fists clenched, declares that land is the one thing he refuses to give up, setting up a brewing war subplot involving House Lawrence. This grizzled gang leader and his crew thought the job was easy money. Just one guy, some dim-witted aristocrat. Except that dim-witted aristocrat is our boy Roman, and within seconds the entire gang is on the ground in pools of blood. The leader's the only one left breathing, and we get to sit inside his head as the panic spirals. "I'm gonna die. I don't wanna die." The guy starts begging, offering to devote his life to Roman if he's spared. Roman's response is basically, "Bit late for that, you already showed me your teeth," and then proceeds to drag this half-dead gang leader through the streets by his hair, bleeding all over the cobblestones, in front of a crowd of horrified onlookers. Once they're in the town square, Roman makes a whole speech, calls out the Blood Fangs by name, says they've been terrorizing the region, and even came after him personally. Then, in front of everyone, he executes the leader on the spot. Splatter. Done. Cut to the aftermath. Word spreads to the local lord's mansion. The nobles are all whispering. One advisor frames it as a huge diplomatic problem. Technically, Roman had no authority to execute anyone here. He cuts off the political nitpicking and demands Roman be brought to him directly so he can hear it straight from the man himself. Our guy Roman Dmitri rolls up to Viscount Lawrence's place looking like he just walked through a war zone and gets straight to business. Lawrence wants to know why our man came all the way to Lawrence territory and put on such a grotesque display. Turns out a few days back, the Blood Fangs, a notorious crime ring that's been a constant headache in Lawrence's territory, jumped an innocent Dmitri citizen. So my boy did what he does best, executed them on the spot. Then, since he figured Lawrence's people couldn't handle the rest properly, he tracked down their base, ambushed it, captured their leader, and took him out too. Lawrence backs off completely, drops it, says he'll compensate Dmitri, and sends our guy on his way. After Roman leaves, Lawrence's whole demeanor flips. He's laughing, genuinely impressed, calling Roman exactly the kind of guy with the guts to make big decisions someday. And apparently he's about to be Flora's husband soon, so no one's allowed to touch him. On the ride home, Roman's knight worries he provoked the Viscount too hard, but Roman just shrugs it off, pointing out Lawrence's own negligence caused this mess. We open on a kid getting tossed into a freezing pit by his father, some kind of divine demon, who basically tells him, "Prove you're strong or die. I've got 11 other kids and can always make more." Cold. That kid is Jung-Heek Baek, and turns out he's the soul now riding around in our guy's body. Inside the pit, our boy gets absolutely jumped by a bunch of other kids who mock him for being just some average brat, despite supposedly being the son of a divine demon. Cut back to present day, Roman soaking in a bath, exhausted, and basically monologuing his whole philosophy to us. He admits this body wears out way too easily, but he also notes he should probably tone down being so provocative, since he's not even at full strength yet and doesn't fully understand this world. Right as he's mid-thought, a servant interrupts. Roman's father, the Duke, wants to see him. Meanwhile, over at the Duke's side, we get a little gossip session. Jonathan confirms that Roman really did execute the Blood Fangs leader, and that Lord Roman has changed quite a bit. The Duke gets weirdly emotional emotional about it, saying Roman was always the son he worried about most out of his 3 kids, the only one who wasn't outstanding at anything, and the only one who actually lived through their family's poor years. Then we flash back even further to a sweet little memory. Tiny Roman running out to the mines just to bring his hardworking dad a cookie, telling him to eat up and hurry home. Back in the present, Roman's dad is having a whole emotional moment, going on about how he always favored Roman and spoiled him with allowance to earn respect, and never imagined that would be the start of his downfall. He admits part of him had basically given up on our guy. Then Jonathan drops the news again. Roman took down the Blood Fangs himself, and Dad's reaction is basically, "Wait, really? That gives me hope." Right on cue, Roman knocks and walks in. Dad doesn't even care how he did it, just wants him in the room, and internally he's torn. Should he tell Roman the truth about everything, or keep hiding it? Then bam, we're thrown back into the flashback pit again. And this time it gets brutal. The bully who's been smacking our boy around grabs him by the face, taunts him with, "That's all you got, you brat." But then something flips. Our guy's eyes start glowing red, and he goes absolutely feral, smashing the guy's head in with a rock. The other kids in the pit just freeze up, terrified. Jung-Heek stands over the body, basically tells the rest of the kids, "Go tell everyone this is what happens now," and narrates that from that point on, he dominated, by standing out, by being the one who killed their leader. We open on the training grounds with some sparring already going on, then everything stops. His Grace has arrived. Roman shows up unannounced, and everyone's confused about why Roman Dmitri is even on the training grounds. The captain decides to make a big announcement. From now on, Lord Roman will be joining swordsmanship training, and anyone who wants to spar with him should step forward. Cue a flashback to about an hour earlier, where Roman's having a private chat with his father about how he supposedly took down the Blood Fangs. Our guy spins a clean story. He's been secretly practicing swordsmanship on his own because he was tired of being known as dim-witted Dmitri and wanted to prove he could do something himself. He explains he figured out the Blood Fangs were basically held together by blackmailed/threatened members. So if he took out their leader Ben Miles, the rest would scatter. And that's exactly what happened. Dad is floored, both impressed that Roman pulled off something this calculated and ballsy, and horrified that his son basically gambled with his life as bait. And then drops the real request. He wants to see Roman's swordsmanship in action himself. Back on the training grounds, nobody wants to volunteer to spar with Roman, because if the dimwit somehow wins, you look like a joke, and if you win, you basically get kicked out of training for embarrassing a lord. Total lose-lose. So the captain decides he'll just pick someone himself, someone who can definitely beat Roman. That someone is Chris, vice captain of the Dmitri Knights. We get a quick flashback intro to Chris, recalling the first time he met Roman last year. Turns out drunk Roman absolutely wrecked a pub, smashing bottles, screaming at the poor owners who keep apologizing. And when knights show up to calm him down, drunk Roman slaps Chris across the face for daring to touch. That slap is the moment Chris realized something. Roman had clearly never been trained for battle and didn't even have half the strength of an average man. And now, present-day Chris is stuck staring down the barrel of having to spar against that same guy. The captain basically forces Chris into it despite him trying to weasel out, framing it as, "We need a fair fight for Lord Roman, who apparently soloed the Blood Fangs." Chris internally scoffs. There's no way the dimwit actually did that, and the captain confirms both sides are good with the no holding back terms. Cue the dramatic walk to the arena, both fighters squaring off, and the chapter ends right as the ref calls out, "Begin!" The match starts and Chris comes in fast and aggressive, going full speed from the jump. The crowd's immediately impressed. He's so quick. Chris is taking this seriously. But then our guy casually blocks the attack like it's nothing. Chris pushes through with a follow-up counter, and even though Roman gets knocked back a bit, Chris notices something's off. Roman's counterattack had real force behind it, and his defense stance is way too firm for some dimwit who never trained. Chris starts second-guessing himself, like there's no way this is just a coincidence. He goes in for a big overhead strike, and Roman just calmly blocks it again. Then the tables flip hard. Roman counters with a sweeping strike that sends Chris sprawling, and as Chris scrambles up, while Roman just stands there having barely broken a sweat. Even Chris starts second-guessing everything, realizing Roman's defense, evasion, and counters are way too seamless for some random nobody. He starts wondering if the rumors are true, if Roman really did take down the Blood Fangs on his own. Back in it, Chris goes full aggro, swinging again and again, but Roman's blocking everything without breaking a sweat. Chris starts sweating bullets, realizing just defending against Roman is already hard enough, and that this isn't good. Now Chris is spiraling, thinking he's actually going to lose this fight to Roman. The crowd can't believe it either. Then things go next level. Roman's whole body starts glowing with some kind of aura, red and blue energy crackling around him. Chris's dad starts panicking, screaming, "Chris, stop!" as the power surges and a massive crash echoes out, leaving everyone watching completely speechless. What on earth is going on? The clash ends in one shot. Roman's final hit sends Chris flying clean off his feet, and he crashes down hard, completely knocked out. Then we get a flashback to about a month back. Chris training hard with his captain, both of them drenched in sweat after a brutal sparring session. The captain calls it for the day, but Chris, exhausted, begs for one more round. The captain's internal monologue gushes about Chris being a real prodigy. Cut back to the present, and that's exactly why everyone's losing their minds. A level 2 aura user, a literal prodigy, just got demolished by dim-witted Dimitri. Back in his own head, Roman's basically unimpressed by the whole fight. By his old Murim standards, Chris is straight up terrible. Even the weakest students at his old academy would wreck this guy. But that last attack, the aura thing Chris pulled, actually catches his attention. Meanwhile, Roman's dad, and the man is losing it with joy, laughing, calling Roman a swordsmanship prodigy, practically glowing. Jonathan backs it up, saying there's no other explanation for how fast Roman's been improving and apologizing for not seeing his potential sooner. Dad's thrilled, calls Roman over, says he hasn't been this happy in ages, and offers to reward him for accomplishing something on his own. Anything Roman wants, just ask. So Roman brings up the 6-month deadline his dad mentioned before, about being sent to the battlefield since the engagement with Lady Flora got called off. Dad tries to walk it back, suggesting there's still time to patch things up with Flora and avoid all that, but Roman just calmly says, "I will go," shocking him into silence. Then Roman drops his actual requests, permission to handpick his own knights, and one more thing, he wants Chris to personally teach him how to use an aura. Cut to Chris, still recovering in bed, completely losing it when he hears this. He's furious, says this isn't right, that he got knocked out cold by the guy he's now supposed to train, and that the humiliation alone makes him want to die. Jonathan tells him it's a direct order from the Duke, but Chris won't budge easily, until Jonathan makes him an offer. Train Roman, report back on his progress, and in exchange Jonathan will finally teach Chris the secret technique he's been holding back, one that could get Chris to a level 3 aura. That changes everything. Chris is suddenly all in, practically vibrating with excitement at the idea. Last bit jumps to some kind of palace or noble household, where a servant is gossiping that word's already spreading. Cut to next day. Trainer, Blondie, who's still salty about losing to him, decides to kick things off with a mana lecture. Auras are basically mana you pump through your whole body and release in one explosive burst. 1 in 1,000 nights can even do it. Takes most people half a year just to feel their mana. Blondie thinks this is where Roman finally hits a wall. Swordsmanship and mana are two different beasts. Our guy, meanwhile, is internally rolling his eyes. He already felt this world's mana, gathered a small amount in his core using his divine powers. But he clocks something important. Blindly doing things the Murim way in a different world is a recipe for failure, so he plays along. Blondie starts explaining, breathe deep, feel the tingle, focus all your mana into one point, and mid-sentence, Roman just does it. Aura erupts off him like a bonfire. Blondie's jaw hits the floor. Roman's internal verdict on this world's energy system? Garbage. In Murim, you purify your body and store dense energy in your core. Here, mana is abundant but weak, flows in, flows right back out. No binding, no depth. Blondie is losing his mind. He trained for a decade to reach level 2 aura, and our guy just pulled off level 1 on his first try. He's spiraling, accusing Roman of hiding his powers, demanding answers. Roman just laughs. Not to be cruel, he genuinely finds it funny, and then hits Blondie with something real. In 10 years of grinding, did he ever once stop to question whether the method itself was wrong? Blondie goes quiet. Our guy breaks it down. People follow established methods not because they're the best path, but because imitation is easy and safe. No one blames you for doing what everyone else does. But comfort and peak performance? Those don't coexist. Roman commends the 10 years of effort. Roman walks off, leaving Blondie standing there reconsidering his entire life choices. Blondie stops Roman before he leaves, pride gone. He just wants to know, what should he do from here? Roman smirks. How interesting. The guy who was talking down to our MC an hour ago is now asking him for guidance. We get a flashback to Murim, some legendary figure called the Blood Demon, the guy who founded the Blood Demon cult and basically ran the underworld of the magic realm. Eventually he clashed with someone called Jung-Heek Baek and, after a brutal fight, got defeated. After that loss, the Blood Demon humbled himself completely and begged to be taught. lot. Roman's narration draws the parallel directly. Chris has that same hunger for power, that same willingness to throw away his pride to get stronger. Back in the present, Chris asks Roman straight up how to become more powerful. Roman tells him that's not something he can teach, and even if he could, just following someone else's instructions wouldn't actually change anything about how Chris lives. But he offers something else. If Chris wants to get anything out of him, he should stay by his side no matter what happens. In 6 months, Roman's heading to the battlefield, and he tells Chris to watch how he builds his strength fighting through real enemies and comes out on top. If Chris is still with him after 10 years, he'll definitely have his answer. That night, Chris sits alone in his room, clearly shaken, just sighing into the dark. We cut to a flashback of Chris's own training. After 10 years, he finally hits level 2 aura, and his old captain congratulates him. Back in the present, Chris makes his decision. He tells Captain Jonathan he's going to follow Lord Roman to the battlefield, because he wants to get stronger. Jonathan clearly senses something happened during that training session. Jonathan accepts it without much pushback, releases Chris from the Dimitri Knights. Chris thanks him, clearly emotional. There's a heavy flashback moment too, young Chris as a kid, crying over his mother's body on a battlefield, and Jonathan's narration about how that little boy is gone now. He tells Chris to follow him to start preparations, saying if Chris wants to survive on the battlefield, he's going to need his own secret weapon. Chris is hyped, thanking him excitedly. Cut to next day. Rumors are spreading around town. Roman supposedly beat the entire Blood Fangs gang with nothing but a tree branch. Most people scoff. That dimwit can't even hold a sword. Cut to Kevin, the war orphan kid Roman saved, hauling crates and quietly losing it over the news. Wait, was that Roman's way of keeping his promise to him? He brushes it off. No way someone like Roman would go out of his way for someone like him. Walking home that night, Kevin decides he wants to become just like Lord Roman, strong enough to protect the people he loves, no matter what comes. There are still villains out there like the Blood Fangs, and he refuses to stay helpless again. Then, almost on cue, Roman shows up. Kevin loses his mind. Lord Roman remembers him, asks how he's been, and Kevin gushes about how his family's safe now, how Hans helped him get work. He doesn't know how to repay him. Roman's smile turns sharp. That's exactly the opportunity he's looking for. He lays out the offer. Kevin's family gets taken care of for life. Comfort, food, no more scraping by. In return, Kevin devotes his life to Roman. Full loyalty. Any order, even if it costs him everything. Kevin doesn't hesitate. He slams his head to the ground and swears it, blood and all. And here's the twist. Roman wasn't planning this. He just remembered Kevin randomly. The kid who reminded him of the demon of lunacy from his old life. Someone who'd throw himself at hundreds of enemies on command without blinking. Roman saw that same reckless loyalty in Kevin back during the Blood Fangs fight, and decided right then, this one's mine. Cut to estate. Kevin getting settled into the Dimitri estate. Hans is put in charge of helping him adjust, and Roman tells the kid he'll come visit soon. Kevin's practically in tears thanking him. Our guy heads to the Dimitri library to actually get to work. And work means research, specifically, figuring out exactly how strong the people around him really are. He starts breaking down the Aura Knight system. Level 1 is just manifesting an aura. Level 2 is cutting steel with it. Past that, it's pure aura strength, and level 3 is already out of reach for normal knights. Then he hits level 6. Apparently that's where you stop being human. The aura stops being a weapon and starts being a natural disaster. There are only 12 of these monsters on the entire continent. They're called the 12 Blades. My boy reads through it and just goes, yeah, that tracks. These guys are clearly built different. And then he flips the page to mages, and it gets worse. 7 circles makes you a high mage. At that level you're not casting spells, you're committing natural disasters, all from a single cast. They're called half-gods, living disasters. And get this, even the 12 Blades are supposedly more cautious around these guys than each other. Magic just doesn't have an equivalent back in Murim, and our MC's quietly recalculating everything he thought he knew about power in this world. That's when his expression shifts. He's not scared, he's calculating. Because here's the thing, he didn't come back to live a quiet, noble life surrounded by books. Sooner or later, someone strong enough to be a problem is going to cross his path. And if that happens, he needs to already be ready. So he makes a decision. Time to train, for real this time. He picks Lord Romero's old workshop, an old sealed-off building with zero outside access, and tells Hans this is where he'll be for the next week. No food, no visitors. Nobody comes looking for him unless his family's in actual danger. Hans, visibly nervous, just gulps and agrees. Inside, the floor's covered wall-to-wall in hay. Hans clearly trying to make the place comfortable. Roman appreciates the thought, and immediately kicks it all all out of the way. Says it'll mess with his energy flow. Our guy gets to work, sitting cross-legged, eyes closed. Flames erupt around him as he forces his mana through his system, burning away the impurities clogging his veins. Blood starts dripping from his hand almost immediately. Turns out this body's carrying way more junk in its system than the average person's. Blood runs down his face, his jaw clenched, and he pushes through it anyway. 1 week later, the Lawrence family shows up uninvited. Viscount Lawrence and his daughter Flora are shown into a waiting room, but Roman doesn't come greet them. The butler just tells them Lord Roman has unfinished business, and leaves it at that. The Viscount isn't thrilled, but he sits down to wait, telling Flora they're here to mend the relationship. Flora tenses up, and then it clicks. Her engagement got called off, and apparently it's a much bigger mess than just a broken arrangement. Cut to the real explanation. House Barco took out a massive loan from the Golden Bank. No collateral. The Viscount's furious, since marrying Flora into House Dimitri was supposed to be their insurance policy against exactly this kind of threat. Without that alliance, Lawrence territory is looking at a war it can't win alone. Flora finally cracks. She knew all of it, knew why her father pushed the engagement, knew the stakes for their land, their people, their name, and she ignored it anyway, for her own sake. Sitting alone afterward, she tells herself to get it together. She refuses to spend her whole life known only as the beauty of Lawrence. Meanwhile, back outside the workshop, Hans is a nervous wreck. He's been pacing all day, wondering when Roman's going to come out, because Viscount Lawrence and Flora have been sitting in that waiting room since morning, and then spots someone walking toward him out of the tree line, lit up by the sunset. For a second he doesn't even register who it is. Then it hits him. It's Roman. Hans practically chokes on his own gasp. Whatever changed in that room over the past week, it's written all over his lord's face, because the way Hans is staring, this isn't the same guy who walked in. We open on Viscount Lawrence sitting in the Dimitri parlor stewing. He's been waiting all day, unannounced, uninvited, and he's absolutely fuming about it. His daughter Flora's beside him, and the old man has clearly worked himself into a full tantrum before anyone even shows up. He finally storms into Roman's father's study, kicks the door open, and starts going off. How dare you neglect a guest? The Dimitris are so petty. Baron Dimitri, Roman's dad, built like a wall, faced like a man who eats nobles for breakfast, just sets his pen down and stares at him. Calm, cold, completely unbothered. He asks one question. Did we make prior arrangements to meet today? Lawrence sputters, admits they showed up unannounced, but says he'd expressed interest in meeting a week ago. Baron Dimitri doesn't even flinch, just cuts straight through it. Do you really think you would have left if we turned you away at the door? Then he lays out the whole thing, clean and cold. When Lady Flora visited Dimitri, our boy Roman told his father straight up he wanted to cancel the engagement. Baron Dimitri scolded him, made him take responsibility, but privately, he understood exactly why Roman felt that way. It was Flora's fault, so he kept his mouth shut, stayed out of it, let it unfold on its own. Then he drops the real hammer. He reveals that a month ago, House Barco came to him with a counteroffer, marry into their house instead, and they'd hand over central government connections plus a slice of Lawrence's own territory. A genuinely tempting deal. He turned it down. Why? Simple. Dimitri land already has enough power. They didn't need to sell. And more importantly, Roman adores Lady Flora. That alone was reason enough to go to war with Barco if it came to that. Lawrence goes quiet. The pride drains out of him. He's realizing in real time that he blew it. He let his emotions run hot, made a scene, embarrassed himself. Baron Dimitri finishes it off with surgical precision. It is the land of Lawrence that needs this marriage, not us. Lawrence is humiliated, completely, and Flora knows it. Standing in that study, watching her father get systematically dismantled by Baron Dimitri, a memory surfaces. Back at the academy, years ago, there was a boy from House Joel, a northeastern house so irrelevant people half doubted it even existed. No influence, no connections, nothing but a crumbling name holding them barely inside aristocratic standing. In a school full of kids who thought they were God's gift to the world, Joel was different, quiet. One day he knocked something over, a petty accident, the kind of thing high-ranking brats did daily without consequence. But Joel, the faculty dragged him in front of everyone. His father showed up, bowing, begging, promising his son would do better. Young Flora watched the whole thing from a window, her only thought, poor thing. And now, standing in Baron Dimitri's office with her father mid-grovel, she gets it. The irony hits her like a slap. House Lawrence is House Joel now. She's the one being pitted, and Lawrence actually does it. He apologizes, admits he was arrogant and disrespectful from the start. Then the door opens. Roman walks in, and Flora finally realizes she missed her shot. His father gives him the quick version. House Lawrence situation, your choice. I'll back whatever you decide. Roman doesn't hesitate. On the day he first met Flora, she told him, to his face, that she wanted to break the engagement. Right there, first meeting. And that's what changed everything for him. The rumors called him the dim-witted Dmitri, and she just believed it. Didn't bother looking. Judged him entirely on second-hand gossip, and decided she couldn't possibly marry someone like that. Our boy's not bitter about it, just clear-eyed. He'd rather be with someone who forms opinions based on what they've actually seen and experienced, not what they've heard in corridors. So his stance? Unchanged. The engagement is still off. Flora stands there, the weight of it settling in. Too late to undo. Lawrence is done. No more cards to play. But he's not stupid. He knows if Dmitri and Barco team up now, Lawrence is finished. So he does the only thing left. He bows. Literally. He takes full responsibility, offers tax exemption on all Dmitri businesses operating in Lawrence territory, and apologizes for the whole mess. Baron Dmitri waves it off. No need. Instead, he lays out a clean deal. Have Flora publicly announce that she cancelled the engagement for personal reasons. Do that, and Dmitri won't be joining forces with Barco. Lawrence practically tears up saying thank you. The Lawrences leave. Lawrence glances back one last time as the door closes. If only I'd realized that young man's true worth sooner. And then he's gone, carrying the weight of a mistake he can't take back. Now it's just father and son. Baron Dmitri turns to Roman and asks the question that's clearly been sitting on him. What on earth happened to you over the span of this 1 week? Roman tells him plainly. Mana has begun flowing within him. Baron Dmitri nearly falls out of his chair. Mana flowing inside a person is extraordinarily rare. A gift given to almost no one. He's looking at his son, the sane kid everyone called the dim-witted Dmitri. Baron Dmitri collects himself, and then he says something that lands quietly but hits hard. As his father, he will never leave him alone in hardship. No matter what Roman becomes, no matter how far he goes, remember the name Roman Dmitri, because Romero Dmitri will always be there to back him up. Our guy stands there and takes it in. He's spent his whole past life as the legendary Jung-Heek Baek, revered, alone, carrying everything himself. And now, in this new life, he has a father who means it. He thinks to himself, I could get used to this. Then Flora catches him in the hallway on the way out. She apologizes, hasty judgments, the rift between their families, all of it. Roman listens and gives her a clean response. No apologies needed. He had no intention of going through with the marriage anyway. Either of them chose this arrangement. But he does tell her one thing. There was a specific reason he decided to cancel it. At a social gathering of northeastern aristocrats, before he and Flora ever met, word got out about the engagement. Flora's own acquaintances pulled her aside and told her something, that Roman Dmitri was a drug abuser. He says it flatly, just so she knows. Flora's face falls. She knows now those were false rumors, but at the time she couldn't ignore them. Roman cuts through it. Regardless of what happened then, it doesn't change anything between them now. That night, Roman sits down with Hans, his trusted attendant, and asks him something out of nowhere. Had Hans ever seen him use drugs, or show any signs of it? Hans looks mortified by the question. Roman reassures him, not a test, not a reprimand. He just wants to reflect on his past life from a third-person perspective. Hans hesitates, then admits it. About half a month ago, Roman had returned from a social gathering looking terrible. He locked himself in his room, started requesting excessive amounts of alcohol every night. After witnessing that, Hans had privately wondered whether Roman had taken something at that party. Roman processes it quietly. He already knows the truth. When he took over this body, he felt the residual impurities, not from drugs, but from the poison the original Roman drank to end his life. That's what Hans saw. Roman keeps pressing Hans for details on the original Roman's final days. He asks who hosted the social gathering where the drug rumor started. Hans answers, Anthony Barco. The pieces click into place. Anthony Barco, eldest son of House Barco, was the man Roman was closest to before everything fell apart. Roman was about to marry the woman he wanted so badly to be with, and married aristocrats have plenty of legal ways to dodge the draft. So why would someone with everything going right suddenly spiral into suicide over a draft he could have easily avoided? He pushes Hans further. Were he and Anthony Barco close? Hans confirms it. There was no one Roman spent more time with than Lord Anthony, but recently the two had grown distant. Then Roman puts the political pieces together. An arranged marriage between Dmitri and Lawrence would have been a massive obstacle to Barco's plan to seize Lawrence territory, and the cleanest way to remove that obstacle? Make sure the marriage never happened. Barco didn't just want the engagement broken, they engineered the original Roman's total collapse to make sure of it. Hans hesitantly confirms. A few days ago, Roman received a party invite from House Barco. Our guy isn't shaken. He's irritated. How shameless of them. Whether they're testing him or just underestimating him, it doesn't matter. He smacks his own collar straight and asks when the party is. 1 week from today. Without hesitation. Tell them that I'll be there. A young man named Kevin arrives at the the Dimitri estate, led in by a steward who gives him a heads up. Don't be surprised if Lord Roman looks different than the last time you saw him. Kevin steps into the training hall and calls out, mistaking the white-haired figure for someone else entirely. Then he gets a proper look and freezes. So this is what Hans meant by looking different. Roman asks if he's settling in alright. Kevin lights up. Life's been good thanks to Hans's help, but there's something on his mind. We open on him mid-spiral, sweating, gripping a sword like it owes him money. If it means I can become strong, I'll do it. So he grits his teeth, sword raised, and screams himself into it. I'll do it. Outside, oblivious to all of it, Chris is wandering the manor halls asking Hans where Roman's gotten off to. Hans tells him, training just wrapped. Back in the training hall, Baron Dimitri shows up to find blood on a sword and immediately spirals. Are you hurt? There's blood on this. Roman, dead calm, shuts it down. It's fine. That's not my blood. Because here's the twist. None of what we just watched actually happened. Not really. The second Kevin started swinging that blade down, Roman dropped him into an illusion. The whole brutal exchange, the scream, the blood, all of it was Roman testing whether Kevin's will would crack under pressure that wasn't even real. Except Kevin didn't wait around to find out if the illusion was going to hurt him. Before the spell could even fully take hold, he'd already cut his own arm open trying to fight through it. Real blood, self-inflicted, born out of sheer stubborn refusal to back down. He's got guts, Roman thinks, and that's the moment Kevin stops being stray who wandered onto the estate and starts being someone worth Roman's time. Roman's decided what Kevin's getting, the ghost soul demon art. He lays it out plainly. This is a mana art, technically, but it's actually a demon art pulled from the martial academy of his previous life. The demon of lunacy's technique. The moment you use it, your demonic energy starts eating your own mind from the inside. It squeezes power out by tearing through your veins. The demon of lunacy survived mastering it because he wanted to become Roman's blade badly enough to endure the pain. Roman's logic is straightforward. Kevin already sliced his own arm open just to push through an illusion. Kid's got the right kind of crazy. He'll survive this. Kevin, for his part, is a little overwhelmed. Kevin fumbles through his gratitude and then asks the one question that's actually been eating him. Why do you trust me? He vowed his life to Roman, sure, but Roman doesn't know him. What's stopping Kevin from learning the art and just running? Roman shrugs internally. His actual reasoning is more interesting. Blind trust only works if you extend it first, and in Kevin's specific case, Roman is completely certain there's no betrayal coming. He just sends Kevin to rest and tells him training starts tomorrow. Then, almost as an aside, thinks to himself that Kevin will understand eventually. Betraying the divine demon overlord is an incredibly unwise choice. Meanwhile, Chris has been sitting on a crate watching all of this for days, completely ignored. Next day, same crate, now visibly twitching. He thought following Roman meant getting strong fast. Instead, he's watched Roman drill a street kid on sword basics while treating Chris like furniture. 2 weeks in, he finally walks up and just asks, he's sorry for being rude before. Okay, he apologizes, but please teach him something. Anything. Roman's answer to Chris's complaint lands flat and cutting at the same time. Didn't I tell you to watch and learn? Chris splutters. Did he literally mean just stand there and watch? Roman explains without any particular sympathy. Kevin starts from zero, so he needs hands-on basics from the ground up. Chris is different. Chris sees Roman as someone who beat him, which means anything Roman teaches him directly, he'll resist and only half absorb. The only way to crack that is to give him a result he can't argue with. So Roman hands them both wooden swords and sets up a spar. The twist, he'll be coaching Kevin in real time, feeding him exactly what to do to beat Chris. Chris accepts the match. Roman just says begin. Kevin swings first. Chris puts him on the ground immediately. Too easy, he thinks, already suspicious that Roman must have something up his sleeve. Roman stood still the whole time and said nothing. Kevin's on the ground, bleeding, and Chris stands over him with a wooden sword and a backhanded compliment. Give it up. He held back the whole match. Could have ended Kevin 10 times over if he wanted to. Kevin spits blood and grins. Let's see this until the bitter end. Roman says get ready. Round 2. This time the coaching goes live in Kevin's head. Roman's pushing his thoughts directly through mana. A real-time voice in Kevin's skull calling every move before Chris makes it. Kevin's stunned for half a second. That's possible with mana? But there's no time to marvel because Roman's already giving orders. Raise and defend front. 1 step to the side. Kevin follows each call on reflex. More reaction than understanding. The wooden blades clack and crack across the courtyard. Chris lands hits. Kevin is slower, outclassed physically. But every time Chris winds up for something decisive, Kevin's already moved a half step in the right direction. Roman sees it from Chris's body language before it happens and feeds it straight through. Chris is rattled. He thought this would be over in 30 seconds. Instead, he's sweating. Kevin's still standing, And the brat keeps doing exactly the right thing at exactly the wrong moment for Chris. He starts to suspect Roman's running some kind of trick, but Roman's just watching, expression flat. Kevin eats another shot to the face, crashes hard, gets back up. Roman's voice again, raise your sword and defend from above. Kevin hesitates a fraction of a second too long, smack, right across the jaw. He's on the ground again. Chris is no longer comfortable. He's holding out much longer than expected, he admits to himself. Roman reads it cold. Kevin's no match for Chris physically. He doesn't have the body to keep up, and tells him the offer still stands. Training starts tomorrow, if he wants it. The choice is yours. Cut to Chris in his room that night, face planting onto his bed and immediately asking himself what the hell he was thinking agreeing to that. He won, technically, 1-0. The fight went on twice as long as it should have. He barely scraped it out, and that last move Kevin pulled, the one that nearly put him down, he'd seen it before. Same angle, same timing. It was the exact pattern Roman used when he sparred Chris. And that's when it clicks. Roman wasn't just coaching Kevin mid-fight. He was teaching Chris through Kevin's body. Every move Kevin threw was a live lesson aimed at the guy swinging back at him. Watch and learn wasn't a throwaway line. It was the whole syllabus. Chris sits with that for a moment, then laughs. Next morning he tells Roman he doesn't need his instruction. He'll find his own path to getting stronger. Chris plants himself on a crate at the edge of the training ground and announces he'll observe instead, watching everything Roman does until the day he can surpass him. Roman says, "Shall we continue?" and gets back to work. 1 week later, the Barco socialite party has arrived. So the party has a villain already, and his name is Anthony Barco. Meanwhile, back at the Dimitri estate, Roman is staring at a costume that would get you escorted out of a masquerade for being too much. Hans is making his case with the full force of a man who spent real money on this. Blood, sweat, and tears went into this masterpiece. Roman asks if he's seriously expected to wear it. Hans asks if Roman is seriously considering not wearing it. Roman looks at Hans. Hans does not blink. Roman says fine. Outside, Chris is already in full armor waiting by the carriage. Kevin comes sprinting in late, flailing, helmet crooked, apologizing. Turns out the blacksmith didn't have anything in his size, so the fit isn't exactly dialed in. Quick briefing. They're not just bodyguards today. They're the face of House Dimitri. Everything they do reflects on Roman. Don't be stupid. Don't say anything stupid. Kevin nods with the intensity of someone who has only just learned what a social event is. They pull up to the Barco estate. The party is already in full swing. Crystal glasses, layered gowns, music, the whole aristocratic circus. And already inside, the whispers are running. Roman Dimitri is here. House Barco is angling for Lawrence. Wasn't the engagement their move to get closer? The room had already decided what Roman Dimitri was before he walked through the door. The verdict was in, the laughter was going, and everyone was mid-sentence when the doors opened. Then Roman walked in wearing Hans's peacock catastrophe, and the room went quiet. Not because of the outfit, though that probably didn't hurt, but because the person standing there didn't match a single word they just said. Taller than remembered, different hair, completely composed. The whispers started immediately. That's Roman Dimitri? The woman who'd been describing him as an eyesore glanced over. This is the flashback the chapter earns. Roman, the night before, sitting at a desk with a full stack of dossiers on every house in the northeastern region. Hans asks why. Roman says he's representing House Dimitri. He needs to know who he's meeting and how their families stayed standing. If you want the adoration of others, you need to put in the effort. So when Sophia of House Grizel introduces herself and apologizes for being an obscure name, Roman tells her he knows House Grizel well. 100 years of history, loyal to the Cairo kingdom for generations. She nearly drops her drink. When Magner of House Volt steps up, Roman already knows about the Viscount's wartime contributions and tells him he was moved reading about it. When Lady Eris mentions it's been so long and he's changed so much, Roman asks about her mother's health. He heard she'd been ill recently, and thanks House Heroes warmly for the business partnership that helped Dimitri flourish a decade ago. Every single person he talks to, he already knows. Not surface level, actually knows. Then a messenger appears at Roman's elbow. Lord Anthony has invited him to his private room. Roman's expression doesn't change, but the panel goes dark and the eyes sharpen. Outside, Kevin is having a worse time. Chris told him to take the helmet off. Kevin said it was too big. Chris said take it off anyway. The other knights got a good look at the kid Roman Dimitri apparently brought as a bodyguard, and the reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Laughter, commentary about House Dimitri being classless, someone asking if the kid can even hold a sword. Chris tells Kevin to ignore them. Inside, Roman has found his way to Anthony's private room. The door opens and Anthony is already performing, arms out, big grin. Roman, what's gotten into you? Like they're old friends who haven't seen each other in years, and he's delighted by the glow-up. Anthony wanted this conversation private. Roman files it away and plays along. The small talk comes first. Anthony says he heard Roman had changed but didn't expect it to be this drastic. Roman says he doesn't really understand it himself. He used to spend a lot on his appearance, and now he's seeing results without spending anything. Casual, relaxed. Anthony smirks and says he assumes that's a good thing. Then Anthony drops the actual reason for the invitation. He brings up the past, specifically when the original Roman turned his back on Anthony to chase the arranged marriage with House Lawrence, then got caught in Anthony's private room with Anthony's cousin. Anthony kept that secret. He covered for Roman at his own parties. And now Roman's here, engagement dissolved, attending a Barco event, and Anthony wants to know, is showing up Roman's way of accepting the offer? The offer being, Anthony keeps the secret buried. In exchange, they discuss an arranged marriage to House Barco. Anthony leans forward with the smirk of a man who thinks he's holding all the cards. Roman, the current one, sits with this, listening to Anthony describe it from across the table, and the pieces land. The original Roman loved Flora Lawrence. Genuinely, completely, whatever his other flaws. He couldn't confess and destroy her reputation along with his own. He couldn't betray the engagement he'd wanted in the first place. And he wasn't willing to hand himself over to the house that had cornered him with a setup. So when the decision point arrived, he chose the third option Anthony didn't offer. He took his own life and wished for death to solve everything at once. The original Roman, the one who drank poison rather than play along, died unable to achieve a single thing through his own will. Our guy has no intention of continuing that tradition. Anthony tries the upside angle first. Two great houses united, absolute power over the entire northeastern region. He sets down his glass with a quiet tap, and the energy in the room shifts. He just leans back and starts talking. House Dimitri, he informs Anthony with full calm, has absolutely no duty to accept this ridiculous offer from House Barco. Back into the party, Flora catches him first. Lord Roman, where have you been? He gives her the short version, business to handle, and now he has to leave. She frowns and tries to get him to stay. He apologizes politely and steps out the front door. Outside, Kevin and Chris are already dealing with their own situation. The Barco Knights who've been laughing at Kevin's ill-fitting armor all night finally cross the line. One of them drops the dimwit comment about Roman, and Kevin goes from clenched fist to full grab. Don't you dare call Lord Roman that again. The Barco Knight smacks his hand away. Chris grabbed the sword and his read is immediate and cold. Fighting the Barco Knights here isn't just a bad idea. It's a House Dimitri problem. Relations are already rocky enough. If he swings, the fallout lands on all of them. Kevin, still on the ground, spits back something that lands. I have no intention of fighting lowly gangsters who can't even act like true knights. The Barco Knight thinks that's hilarious. Decides to find out how long Kevin can keep that heroic act up. Roman's hand clears the distance before anyone processes the movement. Slap. The knight stumbles. Opens his mouth to say, dimwit. Second slap. The guy goes down. Roman stands there looking at him the way you look at something mildly inconvenient on the bottom of your shoe, then says flatly, hey, look up. Back inside, Anthony is sitting alone trying to figure out what just happened to his evening. The answer arrives fast. Roman reappears, smirking, and lays it out clean. He made the decision to break off the Lawrence engagement himself. Anthony's threat had nothing to do with it. Do whatever you want. Everyone calls me a dimwit anyway. What's another rumor? Then, Anthony goes pale. Roman continues. He's done his homework on Barco. Central government ties, serious influence, noted. But in the end, it's power by association. And in terms of raw wealth and actual standing in the northeastern region, that's House Dimitri, not House Barco. Anthony is sitting on the floor of his own party, huffing, trying to process what just happened. His internal verdict, Roman is completely different. Not just on the outside, the gaze, the demeanor, the way he speaks. It all feels oppressive. He's not the dimwit Anthony knew. Then here's the next part. Roman is currently outside scolding Anthony's bodyguards. Outside, Roman has lined up the knights who jumped Kevin and is going through them one by one. They're coughing, retching, begging, please, just this once. I promise I won't. Roman does not care. Kevin and Chris both try to call it. We need to think about House Barco relations. expectations. Roman's response is simple. I decide how much punishment is enough. Anthony storms out. Roman, I don't care if you're the eldest of House Dimitri. You won't get away with this. Apologize right now. Roman turns and looks at him. What do I have to apologize for? This man insulted me and laid hands on a bodyguard of House Dimitri. Then, holding Anthony's gaze, do you really think I'm in the wrong here, Anthony Barco? Anthony flinches. He reminds Anthony what he said inside. He has no problem getting in the way of House Barco's affairs, even out of personal grudge. My patience wears very quickly. Now make your decision. Anthony, out loud he says, now that he thinks about it. Roman is right. Roman turns away. Clench those teeth tight. One last smack on the knight still on the ground. Then he calls it, Chris, Kevin, let's go. The narration lands as they walk away into the sunset. Back in the carriage, Kevin and Chris both apologize. Kevin for the whole situation. Chris for not handling things better once Kevin got hit. Roman acknowledges it. Hastiness only fuels the fire. Their restraint avoided the worst outcome, then immediately adds that he doesn't want to hear any more about it. In the northeastern region of the Cairo Kingdom, nothing holds a candle to House Dimitri, and if they ever encounter someone they have to hold back from fighting, Roman wants them to remember the rage. Feel it. Use it later. Scene shift. Back at the Dimitri estate. Roman is going through the Black Moon Information Guild's report on House Barco. The aide delivers the summary. Barco has been making suspicious moves. Roman pages through it, building a picture. The lore drop is substantial. House Barco is over 100 years old in the northeastern region. They rose to real authority only when a family member secured a seat in the central government. Their military strength is surprisingly thin given their status, but the central government's political muscle more than compensates. The Cairo Kingdom is a small country on the continent of Salamander, surrounded on almost all borders by other nations, which forced it into deep dependence on central government for survival. That relationship handed houses like Barco enormous intangible leverage. They parlayed that into a massive uncollateralized loan from the Golden Bank, and the funds went straight to the Berga Mercenary Guild, over 100 A-rank mercenaries, whose main income comes from intervening in conflicts between nations. The aide delivers the punchline. Based on current draft activity, Barco is expected to move on Lawrence within 2 weeks. The aide asks if Lawrence even stands a chance. Answer: even if they avoid direct fighting, they'd last a month at best. Roman processes all of this. He told Anthony he wouldn't interfere with Lawrence's affairs. But if he's going to keep living as Roman Dimitri, he can't just let Barco do whatever they want. These are the people who threatened him. House Barco can flex all they want, but there's still no match for House Dimitri. If he called in the full weight of his house, crushing them would be trivial, but that would be boring. He tells Hans he needs to see his father. There's a promise from the past that needs collecting. Scene cut. We're now in Dimitri territory, street level. A battered mercenary with green hair is trudging through town. Lucas, B-rank, visibly beat up, muttering that he almost died because of some aggressive clowns who didn't know their place. He drops his wrecked gear at the blacksmith. The smith laughs at him. You went and got equipment made somewhere else? Dimitri has the best iron in the region. Lucas sighs. Why do you think he's here now? The smith informs him it'll take a while to rebuild everything from scratch. Lucas shrugs. Fine. He was planning to rest in Dimitri anyway. He's sick of the battlefield. Then he spots the crowd. A recruitment posting has gone up, and half the town is reading it. Lucas, being Lucas, has to know what the fuss is about. The posting: recruiting knights. Qualifications: a healthy body and a will to become stronger. Positions: 30. Compensation: 8 silver coins per month. The bystanders react. 5 silver coins feeds a family of 4 for a month, so 8 is exceptional pay. But there's a catch in the fine print. This position is associated solely with Roman Dimitri, not House Dimitri as a whole. Applicants must be willing to dedicate their lives to Roman Dimitri personally. Lucas scoffs. Pledging his life to an aristocrat would cost 50 silver minimum. Not interested. He turns to leave, then whips back around. Hundreds of applicants? Already? He stares at the guy next to him. The man confirms it and asks if it's really worth it, given they'd be serving the dim-witted Dimitri. Lucas's eye twitches. Someone in the crowd clears their throat loudly. You're clearly an outsider. Lord Roman is nothing like he was before. Some guy near the posting is mid-lecture when Lucas actually hears what he's saying. Took down the blood fangs. Treats everyone around him with respect. Lucas's face goes full deer in headlights. What? Meanwhile, Roman gives Kevin 3 days off. Just like that. Kevin stares at him like he's grown a second head. A vacation? Roman tells him rest is part of training, that he's been through a lot, and to go spend time with his family. Kevin says, yes, my lord. Back in his room, Kevin stands in civilian clothes holding a coin purse and can barely process what's happening. He literally mutters, a vacation, to to himself while changing. The concept is foreign. This kid has never taken a paid day off in his life. Hans intercepts him on the way out. "You're not wearing that, are you?" and hands him proper clothes Roman had prepared. Plus 30 silver a month starting now. Spend it however he wants. Kevin walks out into the sunlight humming to himself, arms full of fresh bread, wearing new clothes. The vibe shift is enormous. He's thinking about his sister Marie, who used to complain about the rock-hard bread they ate every day, whose one wish was to try freshly baked bread with whipped cream. Kevin could never afford it. The fresh loaves cost double. And then a memory hits. Dark room, men laughing, someone calling his name, the sound of a hit landing. He clenches his fist, swears he'll get stronger under Roman, that his family will never have to go through that again. Cut back to the present. Kevin walking through town, bread in hand, when something catches his eye. His family through a window, his mom sipping tea, his dad laughing with a donut, his sister spinning around in a flower garden. He stops, just looks at them. His family is just out there living. He can't process it. His parents come running. Big hug. "My son!" Marie shrieking that Kevin's here. Full family reunion energy in a flower garden that used to be a dream and is now just Tuesday. Kevin asks what's going on, and his parents explain. Hans showed up one day and told them Roman wanted to give their family this house and the land. And that was just the beginning. Roman helped them settle in and get on their feet at the castle. His mom says she's felt truly alive for the first time. Kevin's eyes go watery. His dad notices and immediately asks what happened to his face. Kevin waves it off. "No, Roman's not hitting me." But dad goes full protective mode anyway, patting his shoulder, telling him straight, "If this is what you have to go through, we can leave right now." Kevin has to actively talk him down. "Lord Roman would never do that to me." His parents exchange a look. Kevin sighs, sits them down, and tells them what actually happened. Then we cut to Kevin's dad telling the Barco brawl, Roman stepping in, all of it. One guy's reaction. "You really can't trust rumors, can you?" The dad shakes his head. No other aristocrat does something like that for their people. Meanwhile out in town, the story is already spreading. Market gossip, kids talking on stoops. "No way, that dimwit Roman?" "Yes, Clark's family got a house because his son became a knight." The word of mouth has legs. A kid says he wants to become like Kevin. His friends explain the deal. Gain Roman's trust, and you could completely change your life. And Lucas is standing right there listening to all of this. The Roman Dmitri he personally watched throw a fit at a gambling den 2 years ago after losing everything. That guy. Lucas mutters to himself, what happened to him over the past 2 years? Then, quietly, "How interesting. Now I want to see it for myself." A new face, older, sharp-looking, the kind of man who runs something, gets a report. Test preparations are on track. The man looks out at nothing. "It's already time, huh?" The knight is warning him. This is his last chance to stop whatever's in motion. "Are you really okay with this?" Roman training his own personal knights is dangerous, he says. "You should at least find out what the kid is actually planning." Jonathan doesn't blink. He explains his read on the situation. When he heard Roman was attending the Barco party, he assumed the worst, that Roman had finally decided to play politics, teaming up with Barco to block his younger brother from the succession. But instead Roman walked in and slapped a Barco knight in front of the entire aristocracy, with Anthony right there trying to stop it. The political fallout from what Roman did is real, and yet, Roman has been the family dimwit for decades. That's just been true. But since the Blood Fangs incident, he's been taking control of his life. Jonathan sets his cup down. As his father, he says, all he wants to do right now is cheer him on. The knight nods. Back at the estate, Jonathan asks about the recruitment numbers. How many applicants? 50? 100? With Roman's reputation, maybe 50 if they're lucky. His aide visibly hesitates. Well, actually, 500. Jonathan does a full double take. What? Day of the test. The training ground is packed, buzzing with chatter, and standing among them in that crowd, Lucas, arms crossed, scanning the scene with those sharp eyes. He showed up. Chris steps through the gate. "My lord, preparations for the test are all ready." Roman turns. Night before the test. Lucas is at a tavern, halfway through a barrel of Dmitri dark ale, which, he notes, is still as smooth as ever. But he's not really thinking about the ale. The place is packed with applicants. He's already clocked 5 or 6 who look genuinely capable, and that's just this one in. He notices a table of C-rank mercs being loud in the corner. He notices the guys at the bar who don't register as mercenaries but move like fighters. His brain is running the math automatically. If people this serious are showing up for a posting under a lord with Roman's reputation, something doesn't add up. Then someone walks in. Henderson. Lucas glances over. Henderson, as in, the guy who was supposed to become a Lawrence knight. That was his plan, because Lawrence is his hometown. Henderson explains it to someone at his table. The night Roman took down the Blood Fangs in Lawrence, Henderson was there. there. He saw it, Roman, covered in blood, dragging the gang leader out of the building by the hair. Young lord of an aristocratic house, crossed into a different territory, personally dismantled a criminal organization because they were harassing his people. Can you even imagine that? Henderson asks. Henderson says he doesn't need them to believe it. He felt the energy in the air. He was there. Roman Dmitri is not weak, Henderson says, slamming his cup down. He's a true leader who will fight for his own people. And this recruitment test is a golden opportunity to become one of his men. He's going to pass it and earn a place here. He wants to live as one of Roman's knights. Lucas watches all of this quietly. So this guy is saying Roman Dmitri is actually worth pledging loyalty to. Maybe it's not just coincidence that everyone is lining up to become his knight. Morning, training grounds. The crowd is loud and relaxed. Guys betting beers on the test, laughing, chattering. Lucas stands in it, arms crossed. The chatter cuts out. Roman walks out. No announcement needed. Nobody ordered anyone to do anything, but the crowd parts and bows automatically. Lucas clocks it immediately. The rumors were true. Roman steps up to the platform. Raises your heads, he says, then gets right to it. 30 slots, as posted. But before the test begins, an announcement. He doesn't intend to waste his life staying within the confines of this territory. He will be pushing for higher ground, and in doing so, risking their lives will be inevitable. If you're not here to take this seriously, leave now. The crowd absorbs this. Then he keeps going. If a day comes when your life is taken from you on a battlefield, the regret you feel in that moment should not be about me sending you into danger. The only regret you should have is not being there to witness his conquest of this continent. The crowd stares. Someone in the back. Conquest of the continent? He's barely hanging on to his own house right now. How can someone be this arrogant? But Lucas is quiet. He's looking at Roman and thinking, somehow, I get the feeling he'll actually do it. Chris steps up to explain round 1. Rules are simple. Stand in the designated spot. The archer shoots 3 arrows at you. Those arrows may barely miss and hit the wall behind you, or they may not miss. Only the applicants who don't move an inch pass. First up, Dirk Morrison on standby. The guy next to Lucas is already rationalizing. He said we might get hit, but he wouldn't actually shoot us. What kind of lunatic would kill the people he's trying to recruit? Lucas watches the archer draw back. That archer is a professional. There's no mistake in that form. Arrow flies and splat right through the thigh. Guy goes down screaming while medics scramble to haul him off on a stretcher. The crowd that was muttering, he wouldn't really do it, just watched a man get pinned. Silence, then panic. Then the real gut punch line. Anyone scared of being shot with an arrow should leave now. Roman is standing there like he's commenting on the weather. The night before the test, Roman laid it out plainly to a small room of men including the archer. Tomorrow they'd be shooting applicants. No fatal wounds. Non-lethal areas only. Roman opened a chest of gold. The room lit up. Everyone said yes without hesitation. Then Roman's advisor pushed him on it. Why go through all this theatrics? Roman's answer is quietly devastating. Empty threats of danger don't work. If he wants knights who can stand in genuinely life-threatening situations without breaking, he has to show them that reality up front. He puts the math plainly. Statistically, the odds of getting hit are 1 in 100, and yet he already knows most of them will run from a 1% chance. What he's actually filtering for is something he calls the heart of a beast. People who, when shoved into the worst possible position, still find a way through. Not talent, not skill, something you're born with. He names Kevin, who without blinking offered to cut his own arm off. That's the trait. No matter how strong, will eventually hit a ceiling against someone who has it. Back outside, 400 of the 500 are gone. The grumbling on the way out ranges from, "This is insane," to, "I refuse to risk my life for some minor lord." Roman watches them leave without comment. The test continues. As the fights pile up, one after another, Roman calling, next, like he's doing paperwork. Round 1 is officially done. Of the 400 who stayed after the initial walkouts, 120 made it through with an arrow in them and kept standing. The breakdown Roman observed. Some were visibly shaking the whole time, some were stone-faced. He doesn't care which. What mattered was whether they had the courage to push through the fear, not whether they were afraid. Henderson, for the record, barely made it. The arrow caught him. His brain was about half a second from saying, "Forget it," and then Roman called pass. Lucas clocked it immediately with a smirk. The guy would have quit on his own if the shot had been a split second later. Roman addresses the 120. "Congratulations on round 1. Unfortunately, he's only taking 30. Second test, same day. Rack of wooden swords, pick one, fight Roman. Any sword, any number of swords, doesn't matter. You just have to last 1 minute against him to pass, And the better you do, the higher the stakes, meaning better position. The crowd's reaction is roughly what you'd expect. Lord Roman is going to fight all 120 of us. On his own, he's not asking for wins. 1 minute. That's the bar. First volunteer steps out immediately. Big bald guy, broad, clearly someone who's been in real fights before. Gives his name as Vulcan. Roman asks if he's comfortable with the sword he grabbed, which is oversized and heavy. Vulcan says yes without blinking. Vulcan's internal read on Roman: confidence way too high. Blood Fang's story is probably exaggerated. No way this kid takes me down inside a minute. He's not wrong to be skeptical on paper. He's also about to find out. Vulcan went down before the hourglass had barely started moving. Not a close fight, not a tense minute, a flash. Roman read his swing, slipped it, tripped him, and that was that. The crowd's assumption evaporated instantly. This isn't a bluffing lord with a good story. This is something else. But here's where it gets interesting. As the fights pile up, one after another, Roman calling, next, like he's doing paperwork. The remaining applicants start doing the math wrong. Surely after fight 20, he's getting tired. Surely the gaps are getting wider. He must be burning down. So they wait, watching, recalculating when to step up for maximum advantage. 1 hour in, fight 60, 60th loss. Roman calls, next, in exactly the same tone as he called it after fight 1. No signs of slowing down. That's when Henderson clicks. The "predators never prey" line wasn't a motivational speech. It was a factual description of how Roman actually operates. The guy standing out there isn't a noble putting on a show. In his world, strength is the only law, and he's already at the top of it. Watching him go through 60 opponents without breaking a sweat makes the Continent Conquest Declaration feel less like arrogance and more like a schedule. Lucas is also recalibrating in real time. Roman Dmitri is still officially regarded as the territory's family embarrassment, which means right now, before the world catches on, getting in on the ground floor is a rare window. His internal calculus is shifting from, "Is this worth 50 silver?" to something that sounds a lot more like opportunity. The remaining crowd has a different problem. No one wants to step up next. Everyone's nudging everyone else forward, whispering, "You go first." Roman gives them about 2 seconds of that before announcing that if no one steps forward, everyone gets disqualified. One person walks out immediately. Easy, casual, like it's nothing. Applicant number 61 is Lucas. His internal framing is telling. He's not here to pass the test. He's here to make Roman remember what kind of person he is. The payment he originally came for doesn't matter anymore. He wants to know whether the man standing out there is actually what he appears to be. The hourglass flips. Lucas attacks immediately. First and only applicant since Vulcan to make the opening move. Sword at the head, dagger at the heart simultaneously. Roman steps back from the dagger, counters with his sword. Clack, clack, swing, dodge. Roman's internal read, he's good. Not best case for the battlefield good, but perfect for a controlled sparring match. Aggressive, adaptive, reading openings as they form. He's got the fighting instinct. Roman's conclusion is also matter of fact. He's not letting Lucas survive the full minute. Lucas is thinking the same math in reverse. Every time he presses a barrage expecting Roman to crack and expose a weak point, nothing. The exchange is fast and brutal. Lucas is throwing everything he has, dual weapon pressure keeping Roman from just shutting it down cleanly. But Roman reads every move. He slips the sword, counters the dagger, and when Lucas goes for one last desperate burst, Roman ends it. Lucas gets sent flying, hits the ground hard, and then we get the flashback that reframes everything. Turns out Lucas has been here before. Not this courtyard specifically, but this exact feeling. On his knees in the dirt with the ceiling of his potential pressing down on him. B-rank mercenary. That's the ceiling. Any average person can grind their way up to B rank through sheer bloody effort, but A rank? That wall doesn't come down through effort alone. You need mana, and if you can't use mana you're done. Lucas can't, so he is. He's survived battlefields where people died every second, made it out alive again and again when he had no business doing so. And the one lesson he squeezed out of all that survival: if you want to live, if you want to win, you do whatever it takes. So our guy throws sand in Roman's eyes, right there in the middle of the recruitment test. He just told us to survive a minute. There were no other rules besides that, and they're not wrong. Lucas charges screaming, weapons up, absolutely committed, and Roman stares directly back at him anyway. That stops Lucas cold. Somehow this man, sand-blinded and bleeding from the eyes, is still locked onto Lucas like he can see every inch of him. Lucas starts laughing, that exhausted, disbelieving laugh of a guy who just ran out of moves. He drops his weapons. I surrender. Chapter ends there. Flashback. The demonic cult. Before you ever touch martial arts, before you train a single technique, The very first thing they drill into you is this: don't perceive your own eyes. In battle, a single blink can be the difference between living and dying, so demonic cult members are trained, systematically, ruthlessly, to calculate their blinking the same way they calculate their breathing for inner power circulation, no matter what hits your face. Back in the present, Lucas standing there soaked from the water splash, stewing. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have used the sand. His whole logic was do anything to survive the minute, and he executed perfectly on that logic. But now it feels cheap. A shameful victory that wasn't even a victory. What really gets him is Roman's reaction. Zero anger. Didn't ask why Lucas threw sand, didn't lecture him, just called, next, and moved on. Lucas is spiraling. Is he disappointed? Was he expecting nothing from me to begin with? Is he going to punish me? Next, that one word floors him. Roman already confirmed internally what Lucas was to him. A man shaped by blood and survival, carrying more battlefield experience than he lets on, but still someone Roman has seen worse than. Because Jung-Heek Baek stood in seas of blood, literally, enough to fill an ocean. That's how he became the divine demon who conquered Nirim. And now he's just calling the next applicant. The hourglass flips. Lucas set an example, just not the one he intended. The moment he threw sand and lived, every remaining applicant in that queue recalibrated. Cheap tactics don't get you disqualified. The rules said survive 1 minute, nothing else. So the rest of them came out swinging with everything. Roman's internal note: cross the line and you're gambling your fate. Fight 100 rolls around, 2 full hours in. Roman not winded, not sweating, completely unchanged. Here's why. Back in Nirim, Jung-Heek Baek learned combat breathing the hard way, forged in a land drenched in blood where nobody went easy on you just because you were tired. If you let your breathing slip, your body slowed. And a slow body on a real battlefield was just a corpse with extra steps. So he learned to cycle mana through controlled breathing, letting it flow through the body, healing exhaustion in real time, restoring him completely between exchanges. Then the announcement: all applicants gather up, and Roman drops it flat: none of you passed. The crowd's jaw hits the floor. But he keeps going: that doesn't mean none of you move on. 30 will be personally notified and selected. Dismissed. Cut to Roman's study. He hands a list to the unnamed blonde assistant, and tells him to handle training the 30. The guy scans the names. Vulcan makes sense, came first, showed courage. Henderson, wait, Henderson? This regular average kid? He's side-eyeing the page hard. Then, Lucas made the list. Roman, that's right. Is there a problem? The assistant lays out his case. Sure, Lucas is a B rank with natural battle talent, but he used a cheap trick and surrendered the moment he knew he'd lose. Men like that are a liability in the field. Roman's not moved at all. The assistant gets his answer. Roman flips the entire framing on him. Sure, Lucas could be a coward with no dignity. But here's the thing. Out of 120 applicants, 0 of them thought to use a dirty trick. Not one. Lucas was the only person who looked at an impossible fight and thought realistically instead of heroically. Roman's point lands like a blade. On a real battlefield, it's not the strongest fighters who make it home. It's the ones who stay cold-headed under pressure, read reality clearly, and find a way out. Those are the soldiers who survive. The assistant, named here as Chris, processes this, sighs, admits he didn't think it through again. Then he hits Roman with a different question. 5 months until the battlefield. Aristocrats don't fight on the front lines anyway, so why recruit knights now? Cut outside. An official statement from House Barco, read aloud to a public crowd. The breakdown: Lawrence made a promise to Barco long ago. Lawrence broke that promise, dishonored themselves as aristocrats, refused to repay ancestral debts, and refused to hand over the land they put up as collateral. Barco's patience is officially exhausted. With central government approval, they are declaring war on Lawrence for that land. Chris goes white. My lord, wait. Roman, completely calm. That's right. We're preparing to intervene in the war between Barco and Lawrence. Surprise, we're not jumping into the war just yet. The manga pulls a perspective shift and spends this chapter entirely inside Lady Flora's head. She woke up from a nightmare, stares at nothing, and the servants outside whisper about her like she's already a scandal. Locked in her room since she got back from the Dimitri estate. Rumor says she's the one who blew up the engagement. The staff's most pressing concern: are we still getting paid? But Flora isn't wallowing. Her internal monologue is a full self-autopsy. Top of her class at the academy, father always proud, thought she was smart and capable. But strip away the Lawrence name and she's nothing. A greenhouse flower who's never actually been tested. She got everything handed to her and mistook the gift wrap for achievement. And then there's Roman. She called him a dimwit. Out loud, except the guy solo dismantled the blood fangs. No backup, no safety net, just a decision and fists. Flora sits with that image, and the comparison does not go well for her. He had zero expectations on him, and still moved. She had every advantage and folded the moment things got uncomfortable. Compared to him, I'm nothing. Hits her like a verdict she can't appeal. She snaps out of it when servants knock with her meal. Flora opens the door herself, surprising them, and announces she's going to the library. Ice-cold eyes, zero waver. The pity spiral is over. So while Flora is speedrunning her political education in the library, we cut to the Lawrence War Council, and it is not going well. Every house they contacted has refused. House Martel, House Batra, the whole northeastern bloc, all passing. Barco apparently put the word out that any house trying to intervene gets added to the enemy's list. The council table is a row of defeated faces. One voice floats the obvious, maybe surrender. Give Barco what they want, protect the soldiers, keep whatever land they can. Lawrence's father almost agrees. You're not completely wrong. Flora walks in herself, doesn't wait to be announced. Her father tries to wave her off, and she just steps through the door. The room goes quiet. Father, 2 syllables. Then, I must speak with you. And she delivers the play she cooked up in the library. Then we cut to Roman. Hey guys, quick confession before we start. I completely screwed up. I've been calling the MC's dad Jonathan, but his real name is Romero Dimitri. My brain clearly took a vacation. Okay, back to it. For the war between Barco and Lawrence, Roman Dimitri will intervene. The room detonates. Jonathan Dimitri is immediately furious. The war has central government backing, so it's legally sanctioned. Roman cancelled his engagement with Flora, meaning Dimitri has zero obligation to Lawrence. The moment Roman steps in, every northeastern aristocrat cuts ties with Dimitri. Jonathan accuses Roman of acting on a whim out of guilt over the broken engagement, and tells him he thought he'd matured. The teacup hits the saucer like a gavel. Jonathan is spitting fire and Roman just sits there, composed, and dismantles him point by point. First, this isn't a whim. He drops the real intel. Eldest son of House Barco threatened him directly. Came to Roman because he was worried the Dimitri-Lawrence engagement would get in the way of Barco's war plans. No proof. Roman admits that up front. But the threat happened, and it told him everything. Barco doesn't just see Lawrence as a target. They see Dimitri as an obstacle they needed to neutralize first. That's not a house that respects Dimitri's position. That's a house that's already decided where Dimitri ranks. Then comes the knife. Roman turns to his father and says it plainly. You have power and wealth and you're not moving. I think it's because you're satisfied with how things are. Jonathan flinches. His son just called him complacent to his face in front of his own council. But I, Roman Dimitri, feel differently. He wants authority. Not reputation, not comfort, not the status quo. And anyone who gets in the way of that, including Barco, gets taken down. The internal voice shifts registers. This is Jung-Heek Beck talking. Still floating in a vast sea in this new life. Not yet anchored. But one thing hasn't changed across lifetimes. He must live a life where he reigns. And then the clincher that shuts the room down. He's not asking House Dimitri for anything. No troops, no resources, no backup. He intervenes as Roman Dimitri the individual. All he's asking Jonathan to do is sit back and watch. Because what he does next will show everyone, including his father, exactly how he intends to live from here on. The scene pulls back to give us Jonathan's inner life, and it reframes everything. He's alone with his wife, and she clocks it immediately. Something happened with the other aristocrats at the capital. He laughs it off, says nothing happened. But his eyes give it away. They looked at him like he wasn't their equal. A commoner who built territory, wealth, a title, and none of it erased where he started. The other houses see the origin, not the achievement. That look has stayed with him. His wife asks if he wants to change it. And here's the gut punch. No, he's genuinely satisfied. He's not going to exhaust himself chasing the approval of people who'll never fully give it. But his sons, that's a different story. He doesn't want them settling for a border territory and a comfortable life. He wants them to reach higher than their given status. That's what he's been carrying this whole time, quiet and unspoken. Cut back to the confrontation room. Roman sits there, hands folded, completely still. Jonathan looks at him, really looks, and flinches. Not from anger, from recognition. He can't stop him even if he tried. He can tell by the gaze. And then it lands. This is the moment Jonathan always hoped would come. The son he spent years worrying about has finally become someone. The dream he had for his children is sitting right in front of him, already in motion. He extends his hand. Do as you please. Come to me if you need help. You, Roman Dimitri, are my son. And I, Romero Dimitri, am your father. Roman grins. That's the green light delivered. Our guy shows up at the Dimitri Forge, biggest in the entire Cairo kingdom, and walking through it makes that obvious. 30+ workshops packed into one blacksmith street, hammers going non-stop, iron everywhere. Roman takes it in, and the math clicks instantly. The Dmitri fortune didn't come from noble blood or political favors. It came from here. The iron mines behind Dmitri land hold the largest reserves in the kingdom. The blacksmiths mine it themselves, process it themselves, and sell the finished weapons at premium prices. Every house in the northeastern region keeps good relations with Dmitri for one simple reason: losing access to Dmitri iron means fighting a war with substandard weapons. That's not a risk anyone in the Cairo kingdom takes lightly. He asked Romero for one thing before leaving: weapons and armor for his soldiers. Romero put his teacup down and gave him a name: Master Hendrik. Former head blacksmith of the forge, ran the whole operation until Romero got his aristocratic title and handed it off. Hendrik is the family's master smith and handles all forging needs. Romero's reference gets Roman in the door. But there's a catch: the Dmitri blacksmiths don't bow to the family name automatically. They're craftsmen with pride. Only someone who actually understands forging, the basics and the techniques, earns their real trust. He clocks it and doesn't flinch, thinks back on how the old Roman acted and admits he can't blame them for the attitude. Then a big silhouette fills the forge entrance. Gray beard, built like a wall, arms like load-bearing columns. Well, look who we have here. What brings you here? Roman looks up at him. I'm sure my father told you why I've come. Hendrik figured he only came around because he blew his drinking money and needed something to pawn. Tells him to just take whatever junk he wants off the pile. Cut to said pile, a heap of rusted, broken-looking gear. Hendrik's dead serious that this is what 30 soldiers get. Our guy asks if that's really the best he's got, and Hendrik, visibly stunned, snaps back that if it wasn't for Roman's dad, Baron Romero, he wouldn't be getting anything at all. Then he goes for the jugular, brings up Roman's younger brother Rodwell, who apparently grinded years at the forge trying to earn his place, while Roman was out, wasting his life chasing women, calls him garbage beyond saving, useless without daddy's name backing him up. Our MC doesn't flinch. He picks up one of the swords and just starts breaking it down like an engineer, says the blade's clearly undercooked, poor technique, no real strength behind the forging, and that Hendrik can't seriously call this Iron of Dmitri. Then he paints the scenario straight. Soldier swings this thing in real combat. The dull edge doesn't kill clean. Blade gets stuck in the enemy's body. Soldier's left exposed and gets his head taken off because of it. Roman doesn't bite. Instead he grabs a piece of the chain mail and walks Hendrik through exactly how it fails too. Armor's there so one hit doesn't kill you outright. And yeah, this scrap survives one hit. Sure, but the second hit? Chains snap. Gut spills out through the gaps. Soldier's dead anyway, betrayed by the exact thing he trusted to keep him alive. Hendrik loses it, screaming about how dare Roman talk to him like that. That's when our boy actually explains himself instead of just needling back. He gets why Hendrik's furious. Roman never cared about the forge before, and now he shows up out of nowhere demanding quality and trashing the smith's work. There. But this isn't about pride or feelings anymore. This is 30 lives on the line. Soldiers who'd walk into battle thinking they're covered when they're not. He stabs the chain mail clean through to prove the point, cold and final. Hendrik knew this gear wasn't good enough and chose to look away anyway. Then lays out exactly what this is. He came with his father Baron Romero's backing to request proper gear, and got handed garbage instead. Straight up asks Hendrik if that's insubordination against Romero's orders. Hendrik stammers that it wasn't intentional, just, he didn't want to hand over quality goods. Roman shuts that down too. Doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. Refusing to comply is still insubordination. This isn't a personal favor he's asking for. It's the ruler of the land requesting top-tier equipment, plain and simple. Cue the forge workers storming in mid-standoff, seeing their master getting grilled by the dim-witted Dmitri, and losing it, yelling at Roman. One guy gets right up in his face, and when they clock that Roman's holding a sword, they panic thinking he's about to hurt Hendrik. Chaos breaks out. Someone yells stop. Hendrik's the one who finally reins it in, grabs the situation, says, "I said stop," and to everyone's shock, apologizes. Not to Roman, visibly conflicted, ashamed, the old man just goes quiet. Then we get a flashback. Young Hendrik, apprentice under his own master, absolutely fed up, grumbling about how his master teaches him nothing, just barks chores and swings on him over the smallest mistakes. When the heck am I going to become a real blacksmith? We see the abuse in flashback too, his master backhanding him across the face for trying to forge a sword on his own before he was ready, screaming to throw it out, threatening to ban him from ever touching a forge again if he tries that again. Cut to Hendrik as a young man, now clearly out on his own, offering a customer a coin for a sword, admits it's not enough for a proper blade, but it's all he's got, and begs for credit, swearing he'll repay tenfold once he starts earning off it. The shopkeeper isn't moved, snaps at him to stop begging and get lost. Hendrik keeps pushing, says he's got a family to feed, just this once. Gets shut down hard. I said, get out. Last shot is a young, sharper-eyed Hendrik watching this play out from a doorway. The flashback keeps going. Wandering later, exhausted and broke, a stranger flags him down. Turns out the guy overheard Hendrik's sob story earlier and just hands it over. Free. Says he doesn't need the money. That blade was headed for the scrap heap anyway, and all he wants is for the swords he makes to actually be useful to somebody. Hendrik lights up, gushing thank yous, practically glowing with gratitude. It's the first real kindness he's been shown in this whole miserable stretch. Then the gut punch. Cut to a body in the dirt, bloodied, unmoving. A man who'd been posted as a marketplace bodyguard, killed on the job. Word spreads fast through the gathered crowd, whispering, and the detail lands like a hammer. His sword cracked mid-fight against a band of thieves. That's what got him killed. People murmuring about his wife and kid, what happens to them now. And there's Hendrik, dropped to his knees in the rain, realizing with horror that this is the exact sword he was gifted, the one he then passed along, thinking he was helping someone. I may as well have killed that man myself, he thinks, gripped by the kind of guilt that doesn't wash off. Right there he swears he'll never make that mistake again, never hand off subpar work and let someone else pay for it with their life. That's the memory that's been driving him this entire time. Hendrik still stunned into silence from the reveal, but it's Hendrik's own resolve that finally breaks the standoff. He straightens, turns back to face Roman, and says it plainly. I will take any punishment for my actions. His workers gasp. Someone calls out, Master! In shock. Roman doesn't gloat. He tells Hendrik that if he truly regrets it, he won't press further. Then he circles back to business like nothing happened. He knows Hendrik's a great blacksmith, and he's formally requesting weapons and armor for 30 soldiers. He tosses the ruined scrap sword back, tells Hendrik not to make this mistake twice, and walks off. Hendrik just stands there, thrown. He mutters to himself, half in disbelief. This isn't the Roman he remembers. The guy who stormed in furious and red-faced is now walking away calm, measured, even gracious about it. He's heard the rumors floating around lately about Roman changing, but seeing it up close rattles him. He turns to his crew, barks at everyone to get back to their stations, and the whole forge snaps back into motion, hammers ringing. One of the smiths, casually working nearby, drops a bomb. 3 years ago, when the old drunk, dissolute Roman had his allowance cut off by Romero, he snuck into the forge and stole one of Hendrik's swords, then hawked it to a shady street merchant for pocket change. Not just any sword, Hendrik's personal masterpiece. 6 months in the design phase alone. 3 more months of grueling labor to actually forge it, and Roman sold it for next to nothing. The smith tells him flat out, you have no idea what it feels like to have your life's work stolen and dumped for scraps. Roman has nothing to say to that. The past Roman really did cross a line here. Back in the present, Hendrik eyes him, sizing him up, clearly still processing the change he's seeing. He tells Roman flatly he hasn't fully forgiven him just because of today's apology and turnaround. Reminds him, the heart of House Dimitri lives in this forge. Then, he needles Roman one more time. If he ever picks up a hammer and makes something himself, even something shoddy, maybe Hendrik's opinion of him would shift. Roman doesn't rise to the bait, just says if that's the bar, it'll happen soon. Tells Hendrik he's heading out and will be back once the gear's ready. Cut to Roman alone, arriving at a rundown annex, the old training grounds he apparently used before. He's quietly satisfied it's all still set up the way he left it. Tools intact, forge functional. He stokes the furnace himself, watches the flames catch, and settles in. Let's begin. We open with a memory, back when Jung-Heek was still living his Murim life. Before any of this Dimitri stuff existed. 18 years old, and he decides he's making his own sword. Reason being, the demonic cult he grew up in didn't do. Peaceful succession. No rules, no seniority system, just a constant knife fight between siblings for who gets to be next in line. Cue his 11th eldest brother, Chang Hyun-baek. Ambushes him one night on a rooftop in the rain, tries to end him right there. It's genuinely neck and neck. Either of them could have died, but the sword young Jung-Heek had treasured, the one he trusted with his life, just shatters under Chang Hyun's strike mid-fight. He wins anyway, caves his brother's face in with the broken blade, but that moment sticks with him hard. Nearly dying because his weapon wasn't good enough was the wake-up call. He goes and apprentices himself to a blacksmith, learns to forge his own swords from scratch, and he doesn't stop at one. Every year, before whatever war or massacre was coming his way, he'd forge a new blade tuned specifically to his current strength and style. Hundreds and thousands of fights later, sword number 39 line earns the name Blade of the Divine Demon, a legitimately priceless weapon forged by his own hands for his own war. Then the flashback snaps back to the present, Roman, shirtless at the forge in the abandoned annex, hammer in hand, doing exactly what past him used to do, prepping a sword for the coming war with House Barco. The clangs stack up panel after panel. This is clearly meant to feel like a ritual for him, not just a task. While he hammers, we get his internal monologue, and it's the most character-defining stuff we've had in a while. He straight up asks himself, "What am I living for?" Reflecting on how his whole existence, being the son of an actual divine demon, was survival of the fittest from day one, right up until he clawed his way to being the strongest being alive. And then the kicker, he says he doesn't consider any of that a bad experience. Not the constant assassination attempts, not the war, none of it. Says he's just making the best of the hand he was dealt. But, and this is the important pivot, Roman now isn't operating with full information. He doesn't know the complete scope of Roman's life in this new body, doesn't know all the enemies waiting in the wings. So the forging isn't nostalgia, it's prep. He needs to fortify his strength because he can't yet handle every variable that might come at him in this new world. The chapter closes on him refusing to accept defeat, teeth gritted, practically radiating heat, and then his whole body just ignites. Turns out he's channeling something called the Divine Art of Fire, a technique tied to the Demon of Fire, someone who apparently used raw strength of body to power flame techniques instead of the usual internal energy cultivation. Roman's using it mid-forge, turning himself into a literal furnace to shape the blade. Then the recap flips entirely to the other side of the board, House Lawrence, the ones about to get steamrolled by Barco. Flora stands in front of a full war council. She lays out the situation cold. All their outside connections have been severed. There's a serious power imbalance, and they're being cornered with nowhere left to maneuver. The council's older members push the obvious argument: surrender now, save the soldiers, don't throw lives away in a fight they can't win. She flatly rejects it. Her reasoning: this isn't really about territory for Barco. Barco borrowed money from the Golden Bank, with zero collateral, meaning a brutal interest rate, to fund this war, which only makes sense if Barco and the bank are already planning to strip Lawrence's land for resources once they win. In other words, surrender doesn't save anyone. It just hands both parties exactly the payout they're banking on. So she pitches something else, not blind defense, and not a stand and die last battle either. Her plan is scorched earth, abandon this year's crops, burn the fields themselves so there's nothing for Barco's forces to loot or live off, then hole up, stockpile whatever rations they've got, and grind it out until winter hits. The implication being winter will bleed Barco's army harder than it bleeds Lawrence's defenders. The old advisor pushes back on the scorched earth plan. Just until winter? But Flora turns that into her actual point. The Golden Bank's reach spans the whole continent, and if Barco can't wrap this war up fast, they'll start choking on their own interest payments. Worse for Barco specifically, mercenaries only fight for money, and that money is coming straight from the loan. So a long, grinding war doesn't just hurt Barco financially, it threatens their ability to keep their hired muscle paid and loyal. Once winter hits and locks down warfare entirely, Barco's stuck holding an expensive, stalled invasion with no clean way out. The room reacts, genuine. "Oh, I hadn't considered that," murmurs from the council, someone conceding. "She's right, this is a fight against time." Her father has an internal moment reflecting on how he used to worry he'd raised a spoiled, immature daughter after the whole debacle with Dimitri. But watching her now, hardened and sharp under pressure, he's quietly floored. "When did my daughter grow into such a fine young woman?" The patriarch stands and formally commits House Lawrence to the resistance. No surrender, they'll fight, endure, and keep the Lawrence name alive even if their walls come down and they're staring death in the face. Flora's visibly moved/tearing up at this. Then we cut back to Roman, his eye now glowing, body radiating heat and hissing steam. And then, the blade is done. First sword forged with his own hands in this new life. He holds it up to the sky, calls it his first sword, and formally names it, fittingly, Salamander, tied to the world he's now living in. War's officially started. Barco's man rides out to the walls before Lawrence's patriarch and lays out 3 choices: surrender and come out alive, meet them on open plains for a fair, duel-style battle, or just get slaughtered inside their walls. He frames surrender as the only way anyone survives. Lawrence's patriarch shuts it down cold, calls out that Barco's ancestral debt claim is built on forged documents, declares he has zero intention of sacrificing his people, and rejects the negotiation outright. Any method of battle will do, he says, since he's not backing off the walls either. Barco's rep, visibly gritting through it, gives the scripted "We respect your choice" line but warns they'll pay in blood for whatever happens next, and the actual war kicks off. Full-scale siege, Barco's archers firing volley after volley. Lawrence's side clanging shields and taking hits but holding the line, no one backing down. We get flashes of a furious Barco commander screaming about, "Arrogant little pests." Barco brought 3 times Lawrence's manpower, and fully expected to steamroll them inside an hour. Turns out Lawrence dug moats deep enough that Barco's forces can't even close the distance. And they've been raining arrows non-stop from the opening minute, meaning they didn't just prepare, they stockpiled serious battle supplies in an extremely short window. Barco's commander is stunned, practically can't process it. How much have they prepared in just a week? He genuinely didn't think Lawrence would put up a real defense at all, expected an immediate surrender to save what little land they could. Instead, Lawrence sealed their doors and bet everything, risking total destruction of the house rather than folding. We open on Barco's commander, seething, asking, "What went wrong here?" He orders his men to prepare that, sneering that Viscount Lawrence isn't tough at all, and confidently predicting they'll crack under enough pressure. Same as when the old Lawrence patriarch once tried to sell off his own daughter to House Dmitri out of desperation. His read on Lawrence's character: cowardly, prone to folding in a crisis. Meanwhile, on the Lawrence side, there's a genuinely warm beat. The patriarch and Flora are up on the wall, and he turns to her, visibly humbled, and says flat out, "You were right." Barco's men have retreated, clearly rattled by Lawrence's defensive prep. He asks how she even came up with the plan. Flora's answer: after the whole Dmitri marriage debacle, she realized sitting around waiting for problems to solve themselves gets you nowhere. You have to get strong and face things head on. And that's how she's chosen to live from now on. Her father apologizes, genuinely, for trying to force her into that marriage, admits he thought it was the only way to keep the house alive, but says no, trails into telling her he trusts her judgment no matter what comes next. Nice quiet father-daughter reconciliation moment tucked into the middle of a war. That moment gets violently interrupted. A massive explosion rips into the castle wall, flares confirmed, and it's bad. Turns out that the Barco commander ordered earlier was a flare, a catapult-class magic weapon built specifically to demolish fortifications with explosive magic. These aren't cheap or common, each shot costs dozens of gold, and as actual weapons of war they legally require central government authorization to deploy, regardless of how much money you have. Flora's stunned Barco had the wealth and connections to rent one at all, given they're already buried in golden bank debt. She quickly lays out the only 2 counters: either match it with a magic weapon of the same class, or open the gates and send people out to physically destroy the flare themselves before it can fire again. She flatly says both are off the table for Lawrence right now. Right as she's grappling with that, and then a maid comes sprinting and screaming about a magic telegram. Turns out it's from Roman Dmitri. The message: "I have a way to help you. Answer my message." Flora's just standing there like, "What?" Roman's projection pops up looking exactly as unreadable as always, and Flora doesn't waste time. "What's your plan?" Roman gets straight to it. He wants revenge on Barco for his own reasons. Already decided he's doing it eventually. The only question was timing. Now that Lawrence is getting curb-stomped by an illegal siege weapon, he's moving up the schedule. He'll help take Barco down now, in exchange for Lawrence making the first sacrifice to get his plan rolling. Flora don't love the vagueness, but they're staring down a breached wall. We have no choice, and Flora gives her word she'll do anything to protect House Lawrence. Cue Roman going, "One more thing," and Roman lays out the ask. He needs a sufficient reason to justify jumping into this war publicly. And that reason has to be that he and Flora broke their engagement because of something Barco did. Flora's like, "How?" And Roman just says the name, Anthony Barco, and then drops the actual request. He wants her to publicly claim Anthony sexually assaulted her, and that's why she called off the Dmitri engagement. He also lays out exactly what it'll cost her. She'll likely get shunned from the aristocratic scene, her reputation as the beauty of Lawrence torched, probably for good. But if she's willing to sacrifice that status as House Lawrence's daughter, that's the price of admission for him stepping into this war. Flora's visibly shaking at this point. This isn't just "help us fight," this is "burn your name to the ground publicly for a lie." Roman softens it slightly, in his own cold way, by adding a workaround. If she says the incident happened before the engagement broke off, technically she'd have still been his fiancée when it happened, meaning it reads as him defending what's his rather than random meddling. And then the line that's basically Roman's whole ethos on display. He says flat out he has no intention of forgiving anyone who's harmed people on his side, engagement or not. Flora doesn't answer Roman's ask on page. Chapter jumps straight to the flare going off, wall exploding, soldiers scrambling to put up the iron fence. Flora shouts it out anyway. She'll do anything, just get rid of Barco's threat. Battle heats up fast, enemy troops closing in. Lawrence soldiers ordered to hold the walls no matter what. Flora's father, in the thick of the fighting, takes a hit that nearly kills him, and he barely deflects it. She turned to Lawrence with a wild plan. Open the castle doors, go out, and face Barco head-on as a distraction. Lawrence is stunned. Throwing the doors open against a numerically superior siege force sounds like suicide. But then Flora drops the reveal. Roman Dmitri has promised to help. Her father's confused. Why would Roman help them? But Flora doesn't have time to explain the deal she just struck. She just insists Roman's a man who keeps his word. Cut to Roman himself. He and one of his men, Chris, teleport to a forest clearing via a magic crystal device and start planning the counterattack on Barco. Chris asks if they're hitting Barco immediately. Roman says no, going in headfirst risks Lawrence getting leveled in the crossfire. Instead, he wants to hit Barco's back line, specifically to take out the flare. Chris, a little baffled, asks why Roman even cares whether Lawrence survives this. Roman's answer is ice cold. He doesn't care if Lawrence burns down or not. That's not the point. Then he calls Chris out directly, and it becomes clear this isn't sentiment, it's strategy. Roman says flatly he'd rather have hundreds of strangers slaughtered than lose a single one of his own men, and that if Lawrence's people die here, that's on their own leadership's incompetence, not his problem to prevent. Roman lays out his real philosophy to Chris. Unlike Barco or Lawrence's leadership, he has zero intention of throwing his own people away as cannon fodder. Full stop. Chris, a little shaken, just nods it in. Then Roman heads off into the forest alone, understanding his role in the plan. Back at Lawrence, the castle doors crack open on command and Flora's forces charge out to bait Barco directly. Punish those vicious monsters from Barco. Battle turns brutal fast. A hulking Barco mercenary starts cleaving through Lawrence's men with an axe, laughing about the nerve of these lowlifes, and one of his hits literally splatters a soldier's arm off, and Lawrence's rank and file are visibly breaking, screaming for someone to save them as the line collapses. Flora, down on the ground herself, is still trying to rally them. Defend yourselves until the bitter end. But she's crying, half convinced this bait plan failed and Roman's simply not coming. Then the ground starts rumbling. Cut to Barco's camp/back line. Tents, banners, supply lines, where someone notices the tremor and asks,
what the Sigma?
The answer, Roman, riding in hard with his hood/cape whipping. His internal monologue is ice cold and deliberate. This is warfare, and yes, his men's lives are now on the line earlier than he planned, but he frames it almost like an initiation. From this point on they have to accept a new reality. Those who survive as his knights get the life he promised them. A life as a predator and never prey. Their survival is entirely on their own strength and will. He's not going to protect them, they have to earn it. Grim, cut before the ambush. Roman gives his men the plan before the charge. He'll go in first and clear a path by slaughtering the enemy, and their job is just to mop up survivors behind him. Simple, brutal division of labor. Meanwhile at Barco's front line, the commander is openly mocking the incoming force, scoffing that Lawrence's side doesn't have the manpower to stand a chance, sneering at these arrogant little brats, before ordering his shield line to brace. Then Roman moves, and this is where the chapter shows us exactly why he earned the title, Divine Demon. Full flashback intercut with the present battle. Riding at full gallop, he starts cutting down enemy soldiers and their horses in single continuous passes. We get narration pulling from his Murin past. The righteous faction used to say the divine demon was always at the front of the cult, leading the charge personally, and that facing him head-on was suicide. The divine demon is invincible. There's a reflective beat here too. People back then wondered why someone who'd already become the divine demon would keep choosing the most dangerous position on the field instead of hanging back and directing from safety. The narration says the reason hasn't changed then and now. The strongest fighter has to be the one at the front, because that's what actually breaks the enemy's morale. Kevin grids through the fear and rallies the others. We must serve our leader, and they push forward, killing riders as they go. Cut to Kevin getting the killing blow on an enemy rider. A young blonde knight, established earlier, green eyes, channels his own resolve. I must follow in my leader's footsteps, and starts cutting down enemies with actual sword blow effects of his own, clearly inspired/empowered by watching Roman work, and someone shouts, "We need to stop that monster!" And Roman turns his attention toward it. He spots the actual target, the flare weapon itself, lit up in the distance over Barco's camp. Over at the flare, someone controlling it is spooked. What's going on? And identifies the incoming threat by name. That's Roman Dmitri? This is the leader of the Berga mercenary guild himself. He rationalizes staying and fighting rather than fleeing. There's a massive payout on this contract, and more than that, the guild's reputation is on the line. He decides he'll be the one to personally deal with Roman. Roman finally clashes head-on with Berga, the Berga Mercenary Guild's own leader, an A-rank mercenary. Berga throws everything he's got, full aura ignition, blazing weapon clash, the works, and Roman just stands there smirking, blade holding steady against it. Berga's weapon actually starts screeching and quivering under the pressure before Roman blows through his guard entirely. Berga's reaction says it all. This can't be, there's no way he's this powerful, as Roman just keeps chaining clangs into him, clearly overwhelming an A-rank aura knight without much visible effort. Then Roman ends it, one clean strike. The narration drops the number cold, 5 seconds. That's how long an A-rank mercenary lasted against Roman Dmitri. Berga goes down, sword clattering out of his hand, dead on the ground. Berga's men are shell-shocked. Oh, our captain! But one of the Lawrence knights, the green-eyed blonde we've been tracking, is fired up. Chaos breaks out, someone shouting to kill Roman this instant. But before it can escalate, own men move to shield him and start evacuating him back. Roman just stares them down, unbothered. Then he turns his attention to the actual objective, the flare. He looks up at it and calls it what it is, divine force, a kind of magical technology that didn't exist back in his Miram life. This is the war machine. He unleashes his signature technique here, formally named on page for the first time. The Divine Demon Sword Technique, first form. Full one-strike release. The panel goes all out with ink splash effects and a massive purple/pink energy column tearing straight through the flare structure. Roman then makes it explicitly personal and public, shouting toward Lawrence's walls. Listen here, Lawrence! I, Roman Dmitri, have destroyed Barco's war machine. Sword raised high. Cut to Lawrence's side. The soldiers on the walls erupt into cheers. Hurrah! Relief flooding the battlefield. Flora, watching from the wall, brings her hands to her face, overwhelmed, tearing up. He really did it. Barco's already retreating, flare's gone, their whole attack plan is toast, but some rando still yells, "Just you wait!" Like that's gonna scare anybody. Cool threat, buddy. Meanwhile, Chris spends this whole battle doing something nobody expected. Instead of just spamming aura everywhere, he tries to condense all of it into one focused source, basically copying Roman's whole technique. He cuts his mana loss down hard even mid-fight, and by the end he's visibly stronger for it. Back with the other knights, they're all collapsed on the ground post-battle, huffing, bloodied, completely gassed, and one of them starts putting the pieces together out loud. 30 of them went into this fight. All 30 made it out. Nobody's got a major injury. That's not luck, that's not skill, that's not normal. That's Roman handpicking exactly who he brought with him. Then it gets confirmed straight up. There's only one reason any of them are alive right now. It's the monster they've been following. Roman walks back through the gates in full hero mode, cape and all, and the entire city just erupts, chanting his name, clapping, crying, thanking him like he personally saved every last one of them. Flora's dad watches this whole homecoming with a face that says, "I can't believe I almost lost this opportunity," literally admitting he underestimated Roman from day one, and is stunned he soloed the flare. Then we get a flashback gut punch, Roman's tiger, the literal manifestation of his darker power, glowing purple eyes and all, with dad casually musing that if things had gone differently, that beast could have been my son-in-law. Back in the present, forced smiles all around. Our brave hero from Dmitri, big handshake energy, while Roman's face in private says otherwise. Roman and Flora's dad share a big hero handshake for the crowd. Flora finally gets a real moment alone with him, awkward, stiff, barely able to look at him, and just manages a quiet "thank you," admitting Lawrence couldn't even hold up their end of the plan. They were supposed to help bait Barco out, and straight up couldn't. Yet Roman fought to the bitter end for them anyway. Roman brushes it off cold. "All I did was keep my promise," and even compliments Lawrence's effort, which visibly rattles Flora more than it should. Then the real conversation starts, a council meeting. Flora's dad wants to formally repay Roman, and Roman, smirking, says he won't refuse if they insist. Cut to the actual meeting room, nobles chattering, everyone riding high on the wind and looking for a shortcut. Their big idea, offer Barco a peace deal now, while momentum's on Lawrence's side, and assume they'll take it because the flare's gone. Cowardly logic dressed up as pragmatism. Roman lets them dig their own hole for a bit before cutting in with permission to speak, and then just eviscerates the room. Flat out calls them passive, cowardly herbivores, no bite behind the diplomatic phrasing. His point, Barco's financial situation is so desperate that destroying the flare changed nothing about their motive to see Lawrence collapse. His prediction is brutal and specific. Send a peace messenger and Barco will just send the head back. Then, Barco must not be forgiven. Revenge is owed for Lawrence's dead, They need to make an example of them to the world. And Lawrence immediately collapses back into, "But we have no power. There's nothing we can do." He turns it around on them. Yes, there is something they can do. Herbivores have no choice but to become prey. Cut to some panic lord slamming his fists down, demanding to know what right Roman has interfering with their plans, screaming his name like a curse. Turns out they're cornered and need a way out. And the answer lands on the table. A duelist tourney. Old world custom. 3 warriors per house. Government-sanctioned judge. Results are binding. Win it, and the war is over on paper. Problem is Barco isn't some pushover. They've got government ties, a fat loan from the Golden Bank funding them, and, worse, a level 3 knight sitting in reserve, almost guaranteed to be their opening duelist. The council's sweating this hard, stuttering, second-guessing whether this is even winnable. Roman just steps in and settles it cold. He'll go first. Doesn't matter if it's Barco's knight, or some outside hire they smuggle in. He's taking that slot personally. Then names the second, the blonde knight, who's already proven himself by taking down a level 3 opponent, while still sitting at level 2 himself. Genuine innate talent. And Roman's betting on it paying off again. 2 wins locked in his head already. Third slot's the real gut punch. Instead of naming some elite warrior, Roman pivots the conversation and drops it on Flora directly, reminding her, word for word, of the offer made earlier. Feel free to ask for anything during this conference. It clicks for her mid-scene. Wait, is this the favor? And it is. He's not asking her to fight. He's telling her he's going forward as the duelist himself. And what he actually wants from Lawrence is different. Full responsibility. No matter what happens. No matter how far he takes it. That's the real ask. Cover for him. Flora, flat out calling Roman a dangerous man, and then, sighing like she already knows this is a mistake. She says he's in favor anyway. Flora basically handing Roman a blank check, knowing exactly what kind of monster's holding the pen. And that's where we'll wrap things up for today. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.